Good afternoon, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. Sorry with the slight delay in getting on the air, but we are here to bring you some coverage of the Iran war on some breaking news involving the Iran war. Potentially involving the Iran war. Also, there is supposed to be there's going to be a Fed interest rates decision in 45 minutes. So we're going to let you know what the Fed chooses to do. It's expected they will either raise interest rates or leave them the same. More people think they will leave them the same at the moment, but we'll have an update on that. What we're going to talk about first is reportedly a drone has hit a U.S.-owned gas storage tanker in Egypt. A drone has reportedly hit a U.S.-owned gas storage tanker in Egypt. So we want to talk to you about that. We're going to keep an eye on the Fed interest rates decision and bring you updates here. So I really appreciate you being with us. Let me thank a couple people before we start here. Thanks to Thomas P0419, who gave 20 people memberships in the chat. Wow, that's really nice of you, Thomas. Please thank Thomas if he gave you a membership. That was very nice of Thomas. Thank you so much. Also, Roberts, May Queen, and Ruth are moderating over there right now on YouTube. Big thank you to you. And we have on Twitch moderating right now. Idaho Star, I got that fire. Matthew Kohai 3 and Flux Eternus, thank you. Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha over on X. And on Facebook, if I can pull up the broadcast, which I'll do in a second. Thanks to our moderators there. Andrea Holder is over there. Is it even working? Actually, hold on a second. Do I have the right thing? Oh, there it is. Now I can see it. Kay Larry Body is there moderating. Thank you. Thanks, Kay. Okay, now let's talk about this reported drone attack. Look at this. Wow. Look at this. Ooh, it's a new article too. Look at this. Oops, now I'm hearing two of me. Drone hits gas storage tanker at Egypt's Mediterranean port. A drone has hit a U.S.-owned gas storage tanker at Egypt's Mediterranean port of Damietta. Maritime security firm Ambry said on Wednesday, citing an initial assessment of the incident. Port services firm Inchcape said in a separate message that 2 gas tankers had caught fire at Damietta. The drone hit floating storage tanker Energos Winter, causing a fire that then spread to another vessel, Gaslog Salem. 3 trading sources familiar with the incident said. 2 separate security sources said the cause of the blast was a drone strike. The crew were evacuated and the fire had been brought under control, Ambry said, adding that no party had claimed responsibility. I want to show you where this is. Energos Winter is a floating storage production tanker. I can see it here. It's a U.S.-owned and it flies under the flag of the Marshall Island. I'm going to pull it up here on Marine Traffic. If you give me a second. Marine Traffic, the ship tracking and marine analytics provider. 11 minutes ago. So the Energos Winter. This is a floating storage production tanker. See how big it is? Look at this. It is 277 meters long. It's over 800 feet long. It says LNG on the side. and at least according to marine traffic. Now let's look here, view on live map. There it is, the Energos winter. 11 minutes ago, it is laden, it says. Hold on a second, I don't know if you can see this. It says laden. Reported time, I think it was 11 minutes ago. It's going to say, where is it here? What did I do? Energos winter. Reported 12 minutes ago. East Mediterranean. That's the latest. There it is. Here it is. I need to zoom in here. Dea? Oh, there. Energos winter. There it is. 12 minutes ago. There's the ship. There's the ship right there 12 minutes ago. There's a different ship next to it. That is a tugboat, looks like. And then there's another there are two tugboats next to it. There's the ship right there. Past track. So I think it might have just been, I think it was moved out after the drone strike. See that? It was docked, and then what I believe happened is that they moved it out after the drone strike, I think. I'll have to double check that. But there is the Damietta port in Egypt. Wow. So you can see if we zoom in here, that's Egypt. And you look at Damietta port, and then this is the ship. Well, that caught fire, and then also another ship caught fire reportedly. The Gas Log Salem. Can we find the Gas Log Salem? That's an LNG tanker. LNG tanker flying under the flag of Bermuda. Position 1 minute ago. There's the Gas Log Salem. And that also looks to have just recently, you can see that was, what time are we talking about here? Yeah, that's yesterday. No, yesterday, that's today. I don't know, that's today. That's this morning. The 29th. I don't know when today this happened. That's all on the 29th. But UTC right now is about 17. That's like now. So this would have been about, actually, that's just about 2 hours ago. It was right there. Anyways, that's the Gas Log Salem. And then there's where is the one I was just showing you? The one that, no, not that. Can I find the one we were just looking at by eyeballing it? Now I can't even find that one. All right, so there's the Gas Log Salem. The one we previously looked up was the Energos Winter. That's the US-owned one. There's the Energos Winter right there. I think I have another update on this. Hold on. Here, look. Explosions in Egyptian Mediterranean port blamed on drones in potential spread of war. Look at this. From Reuters, explosions hit a natural gas loading port in the Mediterranean Sea in Egypt on Wednesday, and British maritime security company Ambri said a U.S.-owned floating storage tanker there had been hit by a drone in a potential spread of the Middle East war. The drone hit a vessel in the Egyptian port of Damietta, causing a fire that spread to another vessel. 3 trading sources familiar with the incident said. The crew were evacuated and the fire had been brought under control. There was no immediate claim of responsibility in the incident. I wonder who will claim responsibility, if anyone. Wow. So we're going to try to get you more information on this. Oops, I froze. I am frozen. Somehow I froze. Let me unfreeze myself. I need to unfreeze myself. That's not going to work if I'm frozen. Hopefully this is a simple unfreezing. Let's see. There we go. I'm back. I am now unfrozen. All right. So we need to keep an eye on this and get you the latest on that situation. By the way, Lou1210 says, will you discuss the Fauci questioning? Not right now, because there's two other topics we're covering. But maybe we can talk about it later. But again, I can't cover everything at once. And right now we're covering the Iran war and the interest rate decision. If I have time later, maybe we'll talk about the Fauci questioning, which wasn't much because he ended up not answering questions at this hearing today. Anyways, thank you so much, Lou1210. I really appreciate it. Also, the Gribble1, thank you. Oh, I had to shut off. Yes, I have to do this thing where even when I turn the ads off before the broadcast, it makes me turn it off, after it starts again. So I have to turn it off twice. Okay. Thank you, the Gribble. Jason Casper, thank you. I appreciate it. Also, SK Rain, thank you. And God Frieza from New Zealand, thanks so much for your support. Also, thanks to Dan Friend on Twitch and Top Buzz on Twitch. So Egypt, I don't know if Egypt has been impacted in any kind of way like this during the war. Now we have an Egyptian port where a drone attack has happened. Oh, oil prices. Our viewer Hemor mentioned. Let me show you the current oil prices right now. So Brent crude is up 5.75% in the last day. Remember that. So what happened is yesterday, the U.S. announced that Iran had attempted a surprise missile attack on Jordan. And then after that last night, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia attacked Iran-backed militia sites in Iraq. So all that was happening. So oil went up a bunch in the last day or so. You can see that oil was yesterday at noon. Yesterday at noon, it was around 81. And now it was around 81 yesterday at noon, and now it's almost 88. That's Brent crude. Okay. And WTI crude, similarly, if you look back yesterday, it was around noon, it was around 78.17. And now it's up to 84.68. Now, hold on a moment here. I may have to time somebody out. If you're gonna post a major news claim in the chat, you must say where you got it from. Otherwise, people are just going to post misleading stuff in the chat, and we can't have that. So I just timed somebody out. Really quick, let me mention what's going on with interest rates, because we're going to have the interest rates decision in a half an hour. So trying to cover both. I was going to come on and just cover that, and then all this stuff happened with Egypt. So here's something about interest rates. You can see here. Hold on a moment here. You'll see it in a second. The Federal Reserve is expected to keep rates unchanged for now despite high prices. Federal Reserve policymakers are losing patience with inflation, says AP, but they may not be ready to turn their frustration into action, not this week anyway. Meeting in Washington yesterday and today, the Fed is expected to keep its benchmark interest rate unchanged. Members of the central bank's rate-setting committee may not be so reluctant to act when they gather again next September. Inflation has been stuck above the Fed's 2% target for more than 5 years. New Fed Chair Kevin Warsh told Congress earlier this month he had no tolerance for elevated inflation. Warsh is presiding over his second policy meeting this week. You know, one thing that could make it difficult for the Fed is what's going to happen with oil prices, right? If this war escalates, they could go way up. If things settle down in the Middle East, they could go down. Fed watchers Joseph Egelhoff and Gunit Dhingra at BNP Paribas Securities say it's possible that Warsh's central bank will release, I never say this word out loud. Is it Kraken or Kraken? Man, I honestly don't know how to pronounce it because I never actually say it. I read it. Someone will know in the chat. Kraken or Kraken? People are saying it's Kraken in the chat. That's what people are saying. Wikipedia says it is Kraken. Okay, there you go. Some Fed watchers say it's possible that Warsh's central bank will release the Kraken with a shock rate hike this week. More likely, they write, policymakers will hold off, reluctant to risk disrupting financial markets that aren't expecting a rate increase yet. Policymakers may want to see more economic data. Something else to look at is what the vote is, even if they don't raise rates. This is just what I was saying, casting uncertainty over the Fed's decision-making is the rising violence in Iran. The price of oil briefly blasted past $100 a barrel last week on intensifying fighting. It's since settled down on hopes the U.S. and Iran can find some way to reduce tensions, but just in the last day, it's gone up a bunch. In the last day, we've had Jordan firing missiles. We've had Iran firing missiles at U.S. forces in Jordan. We've had the U.S. and Saudi Arabia attacking Iran-backed militias in Iraq. And today we have this news that a drone attack has hit a gas loading facility in Egypt, and that a U.S.-owned gas storage tanker has been hit and was set on fire. And 2 tankers were on fire in Egypt. Whew, wow. So we'll have to see. We're going to keep an eye. The Fed rates decision is in 28 minutes. We're going to let you know as soon as that comes out. And let me see if I can get you any more updates right now on this situation in Egypt. That is a breaking situation. Oh, I did see something about the situation in Egypt, something else I want to mention. So Kepler, they do marine intelligence, Kepler. They say that there was an explosion at this Damietta LNG terminal, liquefied natural gas terminal in Egypt. They said it damaged the Energos Winter floating storage tanker, which is U.S. owned. And they also say it damaged the Gaslog Salem LNG tanker, which we heard elsewhere. Both vessels have been moved offshore, they say, as authorities assess the situation. The Gaslog Salem ship had been due to begin service as a floating storage unit on August 1st. They say the market is looking at what the potential impact will be on near-term gas supply and terminal operations. So who did this in Egypt? Was this some Iranian proxy in Egypt that did this? Who is launching a drone or drones at these tankers at a port in Egypt? And might this also be a sign that things could spread to other countries? Let's see. Let me take some comments here. Old Hickory says, but I thought carry a big stick worked. Ty Thompson says, my guess, Houthis, no sources, just opinion. The Houthis, I mean, they're a little away from. Oh, what you're saying is it could have been launched from farther away, which I see what you're saying. So how far away was the drone launched from is a good question. Now let me just show you on a map where we're talking about here. We're talking about Damietta Port, Egypt. Which is here. Hold on, I'm pulling it up here for you. Why is this not acting weird? Hold on, something is being weird. That's that. Nope. Ooh. Hang on here. Why is this acting all weird? I think I fixed it. Ooh, sorry. Give me a moment. Give me a moment here. I see what I did. I think I see what I did. Let's see. Hang on, I need 2 seconds to fix something. I need 2 seconds to fix something here. There we go. I think I fixed it. Did I fix it yet? No. Yeah, we got to get rid of this. We got to do this again. Let's try this again. Source. So I'm taking 2 seconds here and just fixing this, fixing what I need to fix. Nice, done. Okay, now I can show you what I was going to show you. Sorry about that before. So this is Google Maps. This is Damietta Port in Egypt. This is where the drone attack happened, reportedly. And if we zoom out, what you can see is this is up in Egypt here, right? So, I mean, Yemen's going to be way down here. Doesn't mean they can't fire a drone. But that's, 1,300 miles away. They sometimes fire drones at Israel. Iran has proxies in Iraq, certainly, which is closer than Yemen. I mean, Iran is close. I mean, Iran itself, I mean, if you look at Western Iran, you're talking about 900 miles. There's Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is up here. I don't, maybe somebody domestically fired that drone. I'm not sure. But that's where the port is, Damietta Port. That is where the drone attack happened. Fred Flintstone says, thank God no tanker has exploded from impact yet. There were reportedly fires on 2 tankers. Steve D. Printing says, looks like things are getting more spicy. Ann Sullivan says, I think Israel is coming soon to the war. Oh, one other thing I wanted to point out. I have something else to show you that I just saw before I came on the air. This was interesting. In case you haven't seen this. if I can find it here. Might have to just mention it. So Reuters has a report that they came out with earlier today. And what Reuters is reporting is, the headline of the Reuters story is, Yemen's Houthis considering fees for ships sailing through Red Sea, sources say. The Houthis are looking into imposing fees, says Reuters, on most shipping traffic through the narrow Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Reuters also claims that recently Iranian advisors came to Yemen to guide the Houthis on setting up a potential authority that will regulate fees through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So remember, Iran wants to start imposing fees on the ships that take the Strait of Hormuz, go through the Strait of Hormuz, which is here. And the U.S. does not want them to do that. But Iran has basically said they're going to do it. But we have this other strategic, highly used waterway, the Red Sea, and another strait, the Bab al-Mandeb Strait, next to Yemen where the Houthis are. So according to Reuters, the Houthis are looking into starting to impose fees on ships going through here. Always Chasing the Rain says, this is getting ridiculous. Brendan Hackett says, this is getting a bit crazy. Remember, the Houthis are supported by Iran. Beam Me Up says, this is turning into a full energy war. By the way, something else to keep in mind, right? So, I think we've been hearing reports that some countries are planning to try to build workarounds to not have to go to the Strait of Hormuz. The thinking is, well, if Iran's going to, attack ships in the Strait of Hormuz and charge fees, we'll build like a new pipeline or something. Remember, Saudi Arabia is already shipping millions of barrels a day to the west of the country and then shipping it out through the Red Sea. But I believe most of it goes through this way and not through the Suez Canal this way. But if your planned workaround, hang on a second, I got to pull this up here. Where is the, there we go. If your planned workaround, hold on, I shouldn't say that. I need to set this up correctly. We want this. We want this there. Okay, that's good. Okay, escape. Okay, if you don't want to go through here and your planned workaround is to go this way, well, that workaround is not going to work anymore. It's not going to be much of a workaround if the Houthis are blocking this. Right? So, are we, again, I have no idea if the Houthis will do this or they'll try to do it. But you could have a situation not where just that Iran is saying you can't go through here without paying us or we'll attack you. What if the Iran-backed Houthis say you can't go through here without paying us or we'll attack you? Uh, 16 minutes till the interest rate decision. So we got to keep an eye on that. Hang on a moment here. Okay. Now, Pixie Lou says Suez is under threat. Suez Canal is the way out under here. Is way out up here. Suez is down. Suez goes through here. This is the route out. Interestingly, I'll say this. The port that was hit today, I guess the route, if you take the Suez Canal route and you go through here, you end up getting out up here, right? Somewhere up here. But that's not that far from where the drone attack was, interestingly. Well, yeah, it's only about 30 miles. Let me just make sure on that. That's actually quite interesting. Yes, from my understanding, Port Said is where the Suez, it's the northern, it's the exit / entrance to the Suez Canal here. So apparently there was a drone attack only about 30 miles from the northern entrance to the in the northern exit from the Suez Canal, which then raises the possibility, I mean, if ships can be attacked with drones 30 miles away from the Suez Canal, could they be attacked closer to the Suez Canal? I mean, there's only so many ways for all this oil to, it's got to get out some way. If you're sending it out by ship from the region, for a lot of these countries, it's got to go out here or here or here. For Saudi Arabia, for Kuwait, it's only Kuwait. I mean, Kuwait that's their only water outlet here. They have land, but again, you know. So I do wonder if will we see more attacks up here? Could we see an attack on something involving the Suez Canal route? All right, now, hold on a second. Give me a moment. Right, now, as Man for Some Markets has said, we've talked about this before, Man for Some Markets says, problem with Suez route is the limit on ship sizes, and even ones that fit need to be partially offloaded to a pipeline before going through. Drones add grease to the fire. Thank you, Man for Some Markets. I appreciate that. Yeah, I believe the report we read last week from Al Jazeera said that the very large crude carriers that Saudi Arabia uses to ship some of its oil, they cannot go through the Suez Canal if they are fully loaded because the canal isn't deep enough for those. I believe that report said that. Yeah, Al Jazeera had said that if I can find it here. Yes. Most of the exports from Yanbu, which is the main export facility in Saudi Arabia on the west coast, most of those exports leave via very large crude carriers. But if those are full, they can't go through the Suez Canal, according to Al Jazeera. Thank you so much, Man for Some Markets. Thank you so much, Crazy Yoda. Crazy Yoda says the IRGC's favorite pastime is watching Western media hyperventilate 24/7 over oil prices. It is important, however, that the U.S. continue the fight. It's that important, says Crazy Yoda. Thank you so much, Crazy Yoda. Man for Some Markets thinks hiking the interest rate does not deal with supply issues. It's a tool for adjusting demand. And unlike Volcker, it would be hikes into a declining workforce. That's what Man for Some Markets says. Thanks, Man for Some Markets. Also, thanks so much to Eric Anderson, who recommends CL equals F as the best ticker to track oil prices. That's what Eric says. Well, I have TradingView here, which I'm using, but feel free to try whatever. Thank you, Eric, for the suggestion. Maybe I'll look at it later. I do like TradingView, though. And bar chart as well. Thank you so much, Eric Anderson. Let's see if we have any. All right, so we have 11 minutes till the Fed interest rates decision. Let me just take 2 seconds and talk about that. Again, the Fed interest rates decision. So they're expected to leave interest rates the same. Will they or won't they? The case for and against a Fed rate hike, says Reuters. As the clock ticked toward the U.S. Federal Reserve's interest rate decision announcement today, in about 10 minutes, financial markets held their collective metaphorical breath. Will they or won't they? Typically, well before the morning of a Fed rate decision day, prices for interest rate futures contracts reflect settled wisdom about the central bank's choice in light of the economic data and are usually well telegraphed by the policymakers themselves. Fed Chairman Kevin Warsh, however, has given nothing away about his views on the appropriate rate path. And hold on a second here. Here is... on Wednesday, rate futures bets implied about a 65% chance that policymakers will hold short-term rates steady and a 35% chance they will raise rates, reflecting the greatest level of uncertainty around a Fed rate decision in years. It's the greatest rate of uncertainty, the greatest amount of uncertainty about a Fed rate decision in years. The case for a hike. Inflation, as Warsh himself has noted repeatedly, has been running above the U.S. central bank's 2% target for more than 5 years. Remember, higher interest rates you would raise if you wanted to lower inflation or attempt to lower inflation. You'd want to lower interest rates if you wanted to boost employment, the job market. Inflation has been running above the U.S. central bank's 2% target for more than 5 years. Okay, the year-over-year change in personal consumption expenditures price index, which the Fed uses for that goalpost, accelerated this year as the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran drove up oil prices and services inflation. Okay, I'm kind of just going quickly through this. And while persistently high inflation is not crushing the consumer, whose spending has held up despite broadly higher prices, it does run the risk of feeding expectations that price pressures will remain strong, potentially triggering a self-fulfilling cycle. Meanwhile, the labor market has remained stable, with unemployment at 4.2% in June. It does not require the support that holding rates steady would offer. This is the case for a hike. All right, so the case for a hike is that we need to bring down inflation, basically, and that the job market doesn't need a big push right now. That's the case to raise rates. And why should the Fed hold rates steady? Reuters says. They say inflation, you might say inflation is too high, but it won't stay there because the main drivers of price pressures will soon fade or are already doing so. This view says the impact of last year's tariffs is already fading, this view says, and goods price pressures are expected to continue to fall. The outcome of Iran war is uncertain, but oil prices have come down from their peak without a secure ceasefire. Housing is contributing less to inflation than it had been. Okay, the labor market is stable and not adding to inflationary pressures. Anyways, so it's just talking about some of the different factors that might be considered. But, two different people can look at the economic situation and read it two different ways. So, but it is interesting. Reuters said there's more uncertainty about today's Fed rate decision than there has been about a decision in years. But the oil prices stuff is interesting because, again, it was just, what was it, like a week ago or so? I think it was over 100 again, and then it went down a bunch again, and now it's gone up a bunch in the last, day or two. Look at the 1 month. Here's the 1 month for WTI crude. It had gotten down to 67 or so, or 68 at the start of July, less than a month ago. And then 3 weeks later, it had gotten to, did it get to 100? I don't know that it got to 100. Oh, this is WTI. I'm sorry. This is WTI. This is Brent crude. So Brent crude at the start of July was at about 70. Then it got to over 100. Just like 3 weeks later, then it went down to below 82, and now it's almost 88. So, I'm sure the Fed doesn't know what's going to happen with the war. They have to try to, that's going to play into their decision making, but that's going to be hard for them because they don't know, who knows what oil prices are going to be. So we have 5 minutes till the Fed decision. We're going to certainly talk more about the Iran war. Let me really quick just get the Fed website up. If we're going to watch some of Kevin Warsh's press conference too, but let me pull up the site so I can get you that right when they come out with it. I think it's, where is it here? I had to figure out which page. I think it's going to be here. They have a page with press releases. Oops. I think I'm on the right page. I'll get you that as soon as it comes out. Transcripts, policy statements. Oh, this is it. I think it's this page. Meeting calendars, statements, and minutes. See, it says July 28th, 29th. There's nothing there yet. In a couple minutes, we'll get some stuff from the Fed. Now, also checking some other sources here. Hold on a second. Yeah, as one of our viewers mentioned, about 6 minutes ago, Iran State TV said several explosions were heard in Sulaymaniyah, Iraq. It is not uncommon during the war in Iran to have explosions heard in Iraq, by the way, although the situation seemed to escalate there last night. But Sulaymaniyah is in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. Iran, I would say, regularly targets the Kurdistan region of Iraq. We can talk more about that in a little bit. But last night we had the U.S. and Saudi Arabia striking Iran-backed militias, Iran-backed forces in Iraq. They did a whole announcement about it and everything. 2 minutes. We have 2 minutes until the interest rate decision. 2 minutes until the interest rate decision. All right, really quick. I don't even have time to post this everywhere. Will Fed raise rates? Yes or no? Flash poll on YouTube. I'm not going to have time to post it on Facebook right now. I'm going to quickly post it on. It's going to be like a 30-second poll. Will the Fed raise rates? Yes or no? And really quick poll graphic. Really quick. You got to think quick about the poll. Think quick. Yes or no? Okay, flash poll before we get the actual result. Okay, I'm back to me. Now I get it. Why isn't YouTube? YouTube is acting all strange. Hold on, I gotta open up the YouTube chat again. It was acting all strange. Now I can't even show it. Oh no. I have like 15 seconds to show the poll results. I might just read the poll results. The poll result on YouTube, the poll result is 56% say no, they won't raise rates, and 44% say yes. Okay? And I'm just going to tell you on Twitch, the poll is right now on Twitch, 60% say no on Twitch, and 39% say yes. That was our flash poll. We have 25 seconds. All right, I got to end the poll now. I got to end it now. All right. So, let me go to the Fed site. We're going to wait right now. It's time to look at the Fed site. In 10 seconds, they should post something. Will they? Basically, they'll either hold the same or they'll raise rates. See, it says July there. I'm refreshing. It should be out now, anytime now, because the clock is now there. It should be out any moment now. Let me turn off the clock. I'm refreshing. Refresh. There it is. There it is. HTML. Rates the same. Maintain target range. Fed keeps rates the same. The committee decided to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 3.5 to 3.75% by a 9-3 vote. A 9-3 vote to maintain the rates. So the Fed keeps the rates the same by a 9-3 vote. Economic activity is expanding at a solid pace despite elevated uncertainty that owes in part to the conflict in the Middle East. Productivity growth and capital investment are strong. Job gains have kept pace with the workforce, and the unemployment rate has changed little, which sounds to me like they're not saying they feel like they really have to strongly push the job market by lowering rates. Inflation remains elevated relative to the committee's 2% goal, in part reflecting supply shocks that have driven price increases in certain sectors, including energy. The committee will deliver price stability. Voting against the monetary policy action were Beth M. Hammack, Neil Kashkari, and Lori K. Logan, who preferred to raise rates by 1/4 point. Okay. So, here we go. Fed keeps rates the same by a 9-3 vote. The 3 dissenting votes wanted to raise rates. There you go. Okay, now, so that's the breaking news. Again, Fed keeps rates the same. It's a 9-3. I have to see what the experts say about the fact that it was a 9-3 vote and 3 people wanted to raise the rates. 3 of the 12 on the FOMC. Oh, people are mentioning the Dow, the stock market. Hold on a second here. So the Dow, this is the Dow, for example. It looks like it just, well, it looks like what happened is it went up a bit. And now it's going down a bit. But I mean, I guess maybe some people were worried that they were going to raise rates. I mean, it was at 51,976, and then after the rate announcement, it went up to 52,121. But that's like 0.2%, because a percent would be 500 points, and it went up about, looks like in the immediate aftermath, it went up about I have this right? 0.4%, maybe 0.3% after, but now it's given back a little bit. Anyways, you can see that's right there. That's the one-day chart. And then the this is trading view. The S&P Looks like the S&P didn't really change that much. Oh, no, this is delayed. The S&P looks like it says delay. Why is that delayed? Is the Dow delayed? No, the Dow doesn't say delay. S&P says delay there. Oh, we haven't gotten. See, it says it's a little behind the S&P one because that says 2 p.m. right there. So for whatever reason, I don't know if this one. Oh, I think this is a different. This is a different way to track it. This OANDA one. So if this is accurate, what it says is that you can see it's similar to the Dow, where when the announcement came out, it went from 7,389 to about 7 some. It went up about 30 points, which is about what, 0.2% or so when the announcement came out, and then it's gone down a little bit. And then the NASDAQ, this isn't the official one, but that's so again, it looks like the NASDAQ indexes from my amateur eye here on TradingView, it looks like when that announcement came out, there was a bit of a bump for NASDAQ and the S&P and Dow. I'm guessing because there was so much uncertainty and some people thought they might raise the rates, but you can see that like here, it looks like on these indexes, it's those gains have already, some of them have dropped. Okay. Regarding oil, again, oil is it's about 88 right now, and it has gone up since yesterday. At noon yesterday, oil Brent was roughly 81, and now it's roughly 88. What I will do is I should have, hold on. I'm going to get up the Fed press conference. We should, here is it. The Fed, I will have video of the Fed press, hold on, Fed press conference. Let me change the clock. It should say Fed Chair press conference at 2:30. So we'll listen to some of what Kevin Warsh has to say. Okay, did I do it right? Fed Chair press conference in 23 minutes. Okay, so we'll bring you that. Now, hang on a moment. So again, the Fed has held interest rates steady. There was a 9-3 vote on the Fed Open Market Committee, I think it's called, FOMC, and 3 people of the 12 wanted to raise rates. Oh, and I should say, hold on, let me just give you something else here, some other information. Oh, so the Bloomberg says that the 3 people who dissented, it was anticipated in advance. It was thought in advance that they would all dissent. So nobody else. Bloomberg points out, they say that of the 12 people who voted, 9 voted to keep it the same, and 3 voted to raise them. They said it was interesting that nobody else voted to raise, but those 3 were expected, they said. Also, Bloomberg says that Kevin Warsh, the Fed chair, who was known in the past as an inflation hawk, as somebody who really wanted to keep inflation down. But when President Trump chose him as the Fed chair, there was this thinking like, well, is he not going to be able to do that anymore? Because President Trump is constantly talking about how he wants rates lower. So there's been this question of like, will he be as hawkish on preventing inflation as he was previously, given that Trump appointed him? Bloomberg says that the fact that Warsh chose to keep them unchanged, well, how does that work? Can he override the vote or not? Because Bloomberg said the fact that Warsh chose to keep them unchanged while 3 of his colleagues thought an increase was warranted risked denting his inflation credentials a little bit. Well, maybe they're just talking about how Warsh himself voted. Warsh himself has a vote. So I guess what he's saying, what Bloomberg is saying, is the fact that Warsh himself voted to not raise rates when 3 of his colleagues did may make some people think, hey, is he not as tough on inflation anymore as he used to be? I don't know. That's not really my, this is not my field, a field of expertise for me. Let me look that up there. I think what they might be talking about is just his personal vote. I'm not aware that the Fed chair can overrule the vote, but he is one of the 12 votes of the FOMC that sets the rates. Hold on a moment here. Hang on. Give me a moment. I want to take some comments from you. All right, so we're going to keep an eye on the Fed chair press conference. I'll have some video from that room shortly. We're going to get you more updates on the Iran war, take more comments. And our viewer TYS says too much going on in the world. One moment here, just one moment. Here, this is a little summary of what we just heard about the Fed from AP. You'll see it in a second. Federal Reserve policymakers vote 9-3 to leave key rate unchanged despite high prices for now. The Federal Reserve has left its key interest rate unchanged Wednesday despite persistently high inflation and a spike in energy prices caused by the Iran war. The Fed's rate-setting committee reached the 9-3 decision after 2 days of deliberations, marking the 5th straight meeting at which the benchmark rate was kept around 3.6%. Dissenting in favor of a quarter-point interest rate hike were Beth Hammack, president of Fed Reserve Bank of Cleveland, Neil Kashkari, president of the Minneapolis Fed, and Lori Logan, president of the Dallas Fed. Inflation has been stuck above the central bank's 2% target for more than 5 years. Now, our viewer Gary Yagi says, time to make another peace deal today. If you haven't heard, there was a drone attack at an Egypt port today, and a U.S.-owned gas storage tanker was set on fire by the drone attack. And another ship was set on fire by the drone attack. So let's get you some more updates about that. One of our viewers said, "Where did the comment go?" One of the viewers said that the recent attacks in Egypt are very interesting. Is this a new front in the war? Sorry, I don't even see the comment anymore. Anyways, thanks for making the comment. Now, here again is a report. Drone hits storage tanker at Egyptian port on Mediterranean, security firm Ambry says. This is from Reuters. They say, a drone hit a U.S.-owned gas storage tanker ship at Egypt's Mediterranean port of Damietta. That's only about 30 miles from the northern entrance to the Suez Canal, by the way. That's according to that report of the drone attack is according to British maritime security firm Ambry. In a potential spread of the Middle East war, the drone hit floating storage tanker Energos Winter, which is U.S.-owned, causing a fire that then spread to another vessel. 3 trading sources familiar with the incident said. A statement from Egypt's petroleum ministry confirmed a fire at the port, but made no mention of a drone attack. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the incident, which the ministry said was dealt with immediately with no casualties. Earlier on Wednesday, right, we covered this last night, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia struck Iran-backed paramilitary groups in Iraq. And remember, we covered this last night, that Iran fired apparently 5 missiles at U.S. forces in Jordan. I say 5 because Jordan announced that they shot down 5 Iranian missiles. And the U.S. said that Iran had tried a surprise attack on U.S. forces by firing missiles. U.S. President Trump vowed to, quote, beat the effing S out of Iran for firing on U.S. troops days after he halted airstrikes. I believe that was said to Fox News. They actually have it written out in the, Fox News quoted Trump as saying, we'll be hitting them hard. We're going to beat the effing S out of them. That's what he said to Fox. Oil prices shot up today in one of the sharpest spikes of the 5 months war. The joint U.S.-Saudi attacks on Iran-backed forces in Iraq in the past day also marked the first time that Saudi Arabia has publicly joined strikes alongside Washington. That could widen the conflict by drawing Sunni Muslim Saudi Arabia into combat against the Shiite proxies of Iran on a new front. And remember, in recent weeks, there's already been new hostilities between the Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Iraq's Popular Mobilization Forces, a powerful Iran-backed paramilitary groups incorporated into the Iraqi security forces, said at least 20 of their members were killed and 32 wounded in U.S.-Saudi strikes targeting several bases across Iraq. That was last night. Iraqi men shouted Shiite sectarian slogans and death to America as they carried the bodies of slain fighters in body bags out of a hospital in Mosul in northern Iraq. Footage from Iraq's Al-Ahad television showed. Washington and Riyadh said they had struck the Iran-backed armed groups in Iraq in retaliation for drone attacks on Saudi oil targets launched from Iraq. That was the first major U.S. military action in the Middle East since last Friday, when President Trump abruptly suspended an intensive bombing campaign after 13 days, having been advised by commanders that the strategy had run its course. Though Iran denies its forces have directed strikes from Iraqi territory, Iranian newspaper Hamshari reported that 4 Iranian Revolutionary Guards advisors had been killed in the U.S.-Saudi strikes on Iraq. The strikes on Iraq expose a dangerous rift in that volatile country. The Shiite-led government is one of the few in the world to balance close military and diplomatic ties with both Iran and the U.S., but those divided loyalties are a constant source of tension and frequent domestic unrest. Wow. The office of the Prime Minister of Iraq, who took power 2 months ago, urged the parties involved to avoid escalation and said he wanted to keep the country out of regional conflicts. The Iraqi presidency denounced the strikes on paramilitaries as an unacceptable attack and a flagrant violation of Iraq's sovereignty, while also calling for a halt on attacks by armed groups against Iraq's neighbors. Trump told Fox that the U.S. had coordinated with the Iraqi government in launching the attacks. An Iraqi government spokesman did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Trump's assertion that Baghdad had cooperated. Washington has long called on the Baghdad government to crack down on Iran-backed paramilitaries, but efforts to do so in the past have provoked unrest in Iraq. The deep ties between Iran and Iraq, the two biggest Shiite majority countries, are on display this week as hundreds of thousands of Iranian religious pilgrims head to shrines in Iraq for an annual observance of mourning for martyrs. Wow. Hey, let me get the video up on the screen from the Fed press conference. Oh, look, we have the Fed. The Fed. There's a lot going on right now, guys. I'm getting the Fed up on the screen for you. Look, it's the Fed. Hold on, I need my headphones on. We're going to listen to some of the Fed Chair press conference. I got to thank some people here. Do we have volume? So this is in Washington, D.C. And what I'm going to do also is just keep an eye on this. Okay, so we're waiting for the Federal Reserve press conference. So the Fed held rates unchanged, but 3 of the 12 voters wanted to raise the rates. I'm guessing that the Fed Chair Kevin Warsh is going to probably talk about oil prices some and how that affects inflation and how that's factoring into their discussion of whether to raise interest rates or not. Hey, by the way, a quick thanks to a couple people here. Thanks so much to Vicky Sawyer. Vicky Sawyer, thanks for your support for the channel. Also, thanks so much to Hugs and Stuff for being a member. Thanks to I Am Charlie, so much for your support. I Am Charlie, thank you. Also, let's see here. Thanks so much to our moderator. By the way, John Rocker, our viewer, thinks the war will go on for months, if not longer. Thanks to our moderators. We have Ruth moderating over there on YouTube. We have, hang on a moment here. I need a second. Idaho Star, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai 3, and Flux Eternus on Twitch. And Big Ball of Yarn as well. And Sarah, thank you. Also on Twitch, thanks to eBiker for subscribing and Jen Junkie for subscribing. I really appreciate that. And give me 1 second here. Oh, hold on. There we go. Thanks to Kay Lowry Body and Paul Anderson moderating on Facebook. And thanks to Martha Crawford for subscribing over there on Facebook. And also, did I say Andrea Holder, Kay Lowry Body, Paul Anderson, thank you for modding. Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha on X. We're bringing you the latest updates here on the war in the Middle East. We're also, keeping an eye on We've been watching the Fed for the Fed. In 6 minutes, the Fed chair is going to do a press conference talking about their decision to not raise rates, and also, I'm guessing, talking about oil prices and other inflationary pressures. So we'll watch some of this press conference, and we'll also keep giving you updates. And definitely trying to get more news about the reported drone attack in Egypt. I'll keep an eye out and see if there's any kind of reporting about anyone taking responsibility for that drone attack in Egypt. I have not heard of any kind of report of taking of responsibility.
Hi, everybody. We'll get started in about 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
To check your phones, computers, anything else that might make noise, silence them. When the news conference starts, Chairman Warsh will come out, make a brief opening statement, and then take questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. And Michelle Smith from the Public Affairs Office, who'll be standing right here where I am, will call on you. When you are called on, if you could please identify yourself by name and news organization before asking your question, that'd be great.
The Wall Street Journal says traders are going to be looking at Kevin Warsh's comments. The Wall Street Journal also says that the fact that 3 people of the 12 voted to raise rates shows the Fed is running out of patience with inflation. That's what the Goldman Sachs asset management arm wrote to clients, according to the Wall Street Journal. Okay, in about 3 minutes, we're going to hear from the Fed Chair Kevin Warsh, and I'm going to also be checking constantly for updates and giving you updates when I see them. Where is this? Hold on, I found something here. Our viewer Osint NJ sent me something. I wanted to find the original source for this. Excuse me.
minutes.
2 minutes until Kevin Warsh comes up. Oh, is it up here? Here. I'm looking at trying to find the post by the Ministry of Petroleum in Egypt. I was sent a post that purports to be the post from them, and I'm looking on their site and their social media, and I can't find it. So I like to be able to find these things before I can to confirm that it's a real thing somebody sent me. And I just don't see it anywhere. Again, it's not on there. I don't see one on the Egypt Ministry of Petroleum. I don't see a post on their social media or on their webpage. I'll keep looking. Again, the clock is almost at 0. Any moment now, Fed Chair Kevin Warsh. All right, here we go.
Good day. My second FOMC committee meeting as chairman has come quickly. It's probably too early to call it a streak, but our discussions again were collegial and constructive. I'm truly lucky to work with colleagues so capable and mission-focused, and so determined, like I am, to sharpen the performance of the Federal Reserve. Today, as you know, our committee decided to vote by a 9-3 vote to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 3.5% to 3.75%. The committee is continuing its policy of making ample reserves in the banking system. The economy is showing impressive resilience. Even with recent shocks, the trends are positive and reveal solid growth. Job gains have kept pace with the workforce, and the unemployment rate has changed little. Inflation remains elevated relative to the committee's 2% goal. The committee remains resolute. You've heard this before, but we will deliver price stability. As before, the policy statement conveys just the facts. It's steering clear of forecasting, a choice we consider especially prudent at these uncertain times. Uncertainty, however, does not mean a lack of clarity. For some households, businesses, and market professionals, 5 years of high inflation have left a mistaken impression that's hard to shake, that the Fed's implicit inflation target was somehow above 2%. Let me reiterate, there is no soft inflation target. There is no soft implicit target, not on this committee's watch. There's only a target, and it's 2%. Not one of my FOMC colleagues is under any illusion. We have begun a new chapter, and we understand that the 5+ years of inflation above target cannot be cured in 9 weeks or by a single month of modest price decreases. This Fed will not waver. Our credibility rests on performing our duties and delivering on our responsibilities. Americans are right to expect that because our nation's prosperity depends on it. To the regulars here in the press room, today's assessment might sound familiar, yet there was nothing inertial about our discussions, our policy, or our strategy. 2 economic developments are worth highlighting. The first is a very notable change since our last meeting 42 days ago. Nominal and real yields are materially higher across the Treasury curve. In fact, some of the increases in market interest rates between FOMC meetings are among the most significant in the last 2 decades, ranking around the top decile or so. But if the committee didn't change its policy rate, what happened? In the intermeeting period, market attention centered on real data and real economic developments. Prices reacted in real time to incoming information, and the reduction in forward guidance may have been a factor. Market participants are learning to play the, and market prices will continue to respond in the direction and magnitude they see fit. This is, in my view, a change for the better, and we're just getting started. After all, the central bank need not always and everywhere be the center of attention. I understand the desire for rolling forecasts and commentary from this committee, but for our part, we need to observe market reaction to developments, direct and unfiltered. I want to stress, of course, that decisions by this committee matter a great deal. And where necessary and appropriate, we will not hesitate to act. A second economic development is one that I noted at the congressional oversight hearings this month, but it's worth repeating. The most striking feature of the economy is the strong growth of business investment. The surge in high-tech CapEx has been remarkable, but that does not necessarily make the Fed's role any easier. In the AI-related category of high-tech equipment and software, the most recent data shows 4-quarter growth rates of nearly 20%. This is helping to sustain the healthy momentum of manufacturing output. More generally, CapEx is preparing the ground for future growth. Nonetheless, the precise timing and magnitude of effects on the supply side remain hard to predict. FOMC meetings produce policy decisions, but just as important is candid discussion of the big things that matter most. That too is a priority in this new chapter at the Fed. In our meeting, vigorous discussion centered on 4 questions, which I will enumerate. First, we talked a lot about the implications of the past 5 years of high inflation on the current policy conjuncture. To echo an old phrase, has the past really passed? Second, my colleagues and I considered the economic shocks of recent years, strained supply chains arising from the pandemic, military conflicts, energy supply disruptions, substantial increases in tariff rates, and yes, the surge in AI-related investment. These differ in their sources. Do they also differ in their effects on output and employment? Third, we took up the related question of price increases arising from shocks. The business CapEx boom, for example, is driving up prices of memory and logic chips and associated AI infrastructure. Do these changes indicate a broader inflationary dynamic, or do we just focus on them because they are under the bright streetlight? Finally, we discuss monetary policy tools and strategies for achieving stable prices. If, as the Fed has long held, interest rate policy should be its primary monetary policy instrument, how much accommodation are we getting from the balance sheet? In all of this, our work is advancing at the Fed. We're asking the right questions. And in this consequential time, we know how very much depends on getting the right answers. Of course, you've all arrived with questions of your own, so let's turn to them now.
Let's start with Steve.
Thank you for taking our questions, Mr. Chairman. Sure. You've had a couple months now, or 9 weeks, or whatever number it is, to see the markets behave in the absence of forward guidance. I'm wondering if you could tell me, what message are you getting from the markets as to where policy ought to be right now?
Yeah, so I think officially it's 8 weeks and 4 days, but I'm not counting. The message from markets is the message from markets. What I've really been trying to do, Steve, as I think you appreciate, your colleagues appreciate, is getting an unfiltered message from markets, getting a direct message, letting buyers and sellers meet at prices for treasuries, for the foreign exchange value of the dollar, and then trying to judge for ourselves, what does that mean about our remit? How are we doing on inflation? How are we doing on employment? We're trying not to interfere with that market signal. That's part of the reason why we've been somewhat spare in our words, why we pulled back from forward guidance. So they're reacting to events, I would say, much more directly over the 42 days since we last met. This is a good thing. As I mentioned in the prepared remarks, we've seen a material tightening, not just in nominal rates, but in real rates too. And we're observing it. We're trying to stay out of that because, many of you might be interested in our reaction function. We're interested in the reaction of financial markets.
I get that, Mr. Chairman, and I guess the follow-up question is, if the markets are talking to you, what do you hear them saying? And if it's real rates are higher, it would suggest that that's where the funds rate ought to go.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
I'm sorry, it's your question. So interpreting markets is an imperfect business. We central bankers like market pros can think these things are overdetermined, but let me offer some speculation. First, as we said in the FOMC statement that you got at 2 o'clock, the economy output is solid. CapEx and productivity are strong. Labor market's solid, steady. The bond market, the treasury market, it seems to be saying that as well. If I were to try to break down, disaggregate the treasury market signals, I wouldn't be able to do it perfectly. But the bond market's saying many of those same things, and that's why we're seeing a tightening both in nominals and in reals. Even while at some level we haven't done much in 42 days, the markets have done quite a bit.
Claire Jones, Financial Times. You seem to have got the family fight you were after at this meeting. We saw three dissents. Could you characterize the arguments that those dissenters put forward, please, and tell us a little bit why you weren't persuaded by them at this stage? Thank you.
So I guess I shouldn't give you their best arguments. I'll give you some others. So you're right. I asked for a good family fight and I got one. That's the purpose. That's the design feature. I come into this meeting, even this press conference, heartened by what I've experienced the last 2 days. Most of our discussion were on the big questions that matter to the conduct of monetary policy. We didn't sort of hide from them. We weren't scared of them. There was a lot more interaction between and among my colleagues. It was a real family fight. My view, which you've long heard, is that's the better way to get policy right. That's our North Star. So there was a lot of agreement that I heard that we have the powers, the tools, also the authority to deliver stable prices. No walking back from our responsibilities. There was a large majority support for the decision that we made in the room. But I also want to leave you, Claire, with one other impression. There was nothing inertial about that discussion. It was an active, robust discussion about what's in the full range of what we can do and might want to do in the period ahead. You characterized accurately there was a disagreement about a decision today. I would say that doesn't sort of capture the full essence of the discussion. The path to central bank heaven requires delivering on our remit. These days, that means delivering on price stability. I wouldn't measure that path in 42 days or any one particular meeting. And I came out of that meeting even more confident that this is the right team to win the battle against high inflation.
How much do you think not going in July was down to the cool CPI print for June?
So in 2 words, not much. Not much. I'd like to believe that the committee shares my views, which is the historic problem with data dependence is the data and the dependence. We are not relying on any one individual piece of data as cover or as an excuse or as validation. what I care about and what I think the committee cares about is trends on the data. Sure, we got some encouraging inflation data. I think at the meeting 42 days ago, I said something like 63 months of inflation above target. I didn't say 64, though the final calculation might be a close one. So we'll be watching inflation data over the period ahead, but I also don't want you to leave the misimpression that we're sort of breathlessly waiting that. I've called for a task force to revisit both the private and public data we use to make our decision making. That task force is out doing their work. I'll be checking back in with them the next couple of weeks, but I wouldn't say we overly relied on any one piece of data, including that data which surprised some a couple of weeks ago.
Neil.
Hi, Chairman Warsh. Thanks. Neil Irwin with Axios. Thank you for taking our questions. So the Fed funds rate is now about 75 basis points below the two-year yield. Suggests markets think you'll have to tighten eventually, about 100 basis points below most Taylor rule estimates. You're hitting your employment mandate, inflation stays high. Why should rates not be higher today?
There's a lot in there, Neil. So rates are higher today than they were 42 days ago. Markets have made decisions because we step back in part from trying to influence those. Market judgments have moved up on what nominal rates are across the Treasury curve. That doesn't mean we take them as by dictation, but we're observing them. So I think it's a mischaracterization to say that markets haven't reacted because we didn't move today. Markets are reacting in real time. In the period ahead, we've got important decisions to make about the policy rate. Markets in the intervening period, I think, have quite a bit of decisions to make. I'll see if I can put it this way. Monetary policy matters not just by what we say or even what we do. Monetary policy matters by how it affects the real economy. And these prices that we see in financial markets is one of the many ways in which it affects the real economy.
Hey guys, real quick, a couple things. First of all, there's a little bit of a sync issue with the sound and the voice. I'm going to try a quick fix here and see if it helps. Let me see.
You and the other 8 members who wanted to hold,
No,
was that a strong
let me
conviction or was
try.
that a hair trigger?
It's something I might have to fix after the stream. I can fix it, but I might have to fix it after the stream. Let me just try one other quick thing and see if it works. I don't know that that's going to work. All right, let's see. If I do this one, I know there's no graphics now, but is this going to be fixed or not?
Absence of shocks. What are our tools and our capabilities?
That seems better, right?
What's the effect on prices on output? I heard
Maybe
a
it's
lot
still
of
a bit off.
commonality on the questions. Were there different leans on the answers? You bet there was. So could people come to different conclusions? Absolutely. But my own judgment is this is a period of watchful thinking, not watchful waiting. And I think the score on that vote was unanimous.
Colby.
Thank you. Colby Smith with the New York Times. You've mentioned that looking at the Fed's policy tools is one element of a three-pronged strategy to address the inflation problem. So I'm curious how you view the effectiveness of those tools. If inflation is too high and not coming down, is the best remedy to raise interest rates?
So that was the discussion in the last 2 days. Is that the dominant remedy? If inflation continues to be elevated through the forecast period, interest rates could well be part of that solution. But I wouldn't say it's in isolation. I tried to describe in my remarks today a point that I made into the oversight committees a couple of weeks ago. I think there was a misimpression by some in financial markets, by some households and businesses, that central bankers like me, we set a 2% inflation target, but maybe we were more tolerable of a somewhat higher inflation target. In economics, we'd call that the revealed preference. And so might it have been rational for people to think, well, their inflation target's somewhat higher. What I heard in the last 2 days, what I've heard in 8.5 weeks is no. We will deliver the 2% inflation target. That is the committee's definition of price stability. So one way, absent the tools that you reference, to ensure that we get there is ensure that expectations are centered around the right number. And I think we've made some progress on that. I am not suggesting we're done on that. It's worth reiterating. And ultimately, the business we're in, Colby, is performance. We are going to be judged by how we perform. And that's what we intend to do. The inflation target, making clear expectations is one part of it. Making sure we demonstrate we're responsible for it, we're not blaming as another. And our policy tools, like you referenced, is the third and equally consequential part.
How are you factoring the fact that a large portion of the inflation overshoot is being caused by supply shocks, as it's mentioned again in the statement? Does that blunt the effectiveness of rate hikes in your view?
First, on the premise of your question, it was almost as if you were listening to our discussion in the last day and a half. A lot of our focus was on trying to understand and identify underlying inflation dynamics amid shocks. We take these shocks seriously. There have been a series of them that have been hitting this economy. We're not looking through them and saying, oh, they don't matter. But we're trying to understand is to what extent are these shocks broadening in their effects, broadening in their impact on prices that are quite far removed from it. Our goal is to have growth that is broadening and inflation that is becoming more limited, more circumscribed. I'll be the first to admit the shocks make this job and this policy conjuncture a little tougher, but that's among the chief questions we've asked ourselves. And around the room, people have different views on it. I tend to think in the coming months we're going to refine that view and have a better judgment, and we're going to have market prices trying to help inform it too.
All right, so guys, I'm thinking at this point, let me ask the chat. So I am thinking, we got to see what Kevin Warsh said at the top of his press conference. We got to hear him answer a couple questions. I'm thinking of getting back to the coverage of the war and what's going on with that drone attack. Does that sound okay to people? You can go to the Fed social media, and if you want to see the rest of it, I did want to see some of it, but I think maybe we'll go back now to the war coverage. Okay, people are generally saying yes. Most people are saying yes. So again, you can go to the Fed on YouTube and see the rest of this press conference, but the vast majority of people want us to get back to the war updates. So I'm going to do that. Let me just real quick. So I apologize to the people who said keep going, but the vast majority of the people said no, let's go on to the war stuff. So what I'm going to do is, what I should do is update. You know what I'm going to do? I need about a minute because I need to update. I want to update the title and everything. So I'm going to put the press conference back on for like a minute or two while I update what I need to update, rather than me sitting here in silence. So give me about a minute or so while I'm updating this stuff, and we'll just see a little more press conference, and then we'll get to more updates.
I think you characterized it correctly. Historically, at least from my first tour of duty at the Fed to more recent periods, it would be sort of a setting up speech more often than not of what was going to be happening in the fall. I haven't made any judgments on that, but those are judgments we'll have to come to. If I could, in the high mountain air in Jackson, Wyoming, I'd like to also frame the big questions. There is a tendency, especially with the proliferation of meetings and press conferences, to get caught up in the myopic. Did you do this by a quarter or do that? Ultimately, whether we deliver on price stability matters some, the decisions we make in 6 or 7 or 8 week periods. But they matter more, what are the big questions? What's really happening with productivity? What's really happening with demographics? What's really happening to the global economy amid the shocks? Haven't made a decision whether it's going to be a big picture speech or whether it's going to be a more traditional setup for all the action we're going to have between September and December. I will tell you one other thing that I am doing between now and Jackson Hole, which is I'm checking with those task forces. My first principle of establishing a task force is find the best subject matter experts anywhere in the world and put them together, especially put them together with other people who might disagree with them. In the next couple weeks, I'm going to be doing a check back in. I've given them time to sort of think hard about their agenda, their debate, their schedule, and when they might be ready for prime time. I'll be doing a little bit of that checking, and that may or may not inform anything I have to say in Jackson.
Nick Timmeros of the Wall Street Journal. Chairman Warsh, I want to follow up on Colby's question about policy transmission. You've said there's no cruel choice between stable prices and full employment. Rates bring inflation down by cooling demand. It's generally thought that can show up in the labor market. If that's not the channel you're relying on, what is?
Yeah, so let me go back to first principles, Nick. I don't believe that either part of our mandate is generally at war with the other part. I do not believe that price stability and full employment is an either-or proposition. There have been policymakers over the last several generations who have thought that there is a strict trade-off there. That isn't my judgment. In fact, my judgment is if and when we deliver on our remit, we're going to be satisfying both prongs. We're going to have price stability and full employment. And in fact, if you want to do the most harm to the labor markets, you would run a period of high inflation that's variable, such that employers, businesses, wouldn't really know what's going on. So I think the two parts of our mandate are equally important. We have no legislative orphans here. I've been talking mostly about price stability because we're doing pretty well collectively as a country, as policymakers on the full employment side. But we're doing considerably less well on prices. That's why we describe them as elevated, and that's what's taken most of our discussion. In terms of transmission mechanisms of monetary policy, I think different tools work through different transmission mechanisms. The interest rates work through lending channels and credit channels, maybe confidence channels and foreign exchange. The balance sheet probably works through some other channels like signaling and portfolio balance. We're keeping full abreast of all these tools in making policy. But if the suggestion is somehow we're going to be fine-tuning aggregate demand so it catches supply, that's not my mental model. I don't think we're great in the fine-tuning business. We're trying to get supply and demand in broad order, but really what we're doing as we sit here today at this press conference is I think we've got a reasonable sense of what aggregate demand looks like in this economy. We're inferring aggregate supply. We're making a judgment about what productivity is. And in some sense, there's a race between supply and demand. And the surge in business CapEx in around AI, it's making that calculation a little harder to judge, but in the period ahead, we're going to be trying to judge just that.
And if I could ask, where exactly was the disagreement today? Was it about the inflation forecast, or was it something more around the risks, the tactics?
Yeah, so I'm going to I'll let the dissenters speak for themselves. The way I heard it over the last 2 days was overwhelming agreement on objectives and authority and commitment. I didn't hear anybody walking away from it. The judgments as to how best to achieve the price stability, that was probably the question that we were trying to answer. What's the best move? What's the best strategy? What's the best way to achieve it? And a second question that was asked is, when do we need to make those harder calls? When do we need to make those decisions? And like I said to one of your colleagues, I was comforted that markets in the intermeeting period weren't reacting to us. They weren't reacting to dots or to speeches. They appeared more than ever to be reacting to real-time events. So they're gauging themselves how restrictive the Treasury curve should be. And that, I think, has been a useful development. We don't endorse any particular market move, but I'd also suggest we observe them with keen interest.
Okay, I did what I needed to do. Thanks for your patience here. So I have updated the title and everything. And let me just update the picture over my shoulder. So we have covered the Fed today, and I want to get back into the developments in the Middle East. And I just need to do that. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. That was not what I wanted to do. I put the picture at the wrong place. Hang on a moment. Everything's getting messed up now. Let's see here. We want it to be there. There, now the logo's back. Sorry about that. This goes here. There we go. Okay, now. Thanks for your patience. Hey, by the way, a quick thanks to Gary Baines for the gift memberships. Thanks so much, Gary Baines. Also, Luke Skywalker, thanks for your support from the UK, Luke. And AGB6773, who may have been in Japan, maybe? Is that where that's from? Yeah, I think, hold on a second here. I don't know. Am I right about that? Trying to get in. Yes, I think Japan. Thanks, AGB. And hugs and stuff. Okay, so let's get back to what we were doing. Now, turn this off. One more moment. One more moment here. Okay, I think we're good to go. Now, let's talk about the Middle East. You can see here, AP is also reporting this. Drone strikes ignite fires on 2 natural gas vessels at Egyptian port, Ambri maritime security firm says. Drone strikes ignite fires on 2 natural gas vessels at Egyptian port, Ambri maritime security firm says. That's from AP. See if they have anything more about that yet. They don't seem to yet. Hang on a moment here. So we're trying to get you some more updates on this. And let me just show you what else we have on that. Seems like a big story to me. I don't think AP has updated their story yet. Drone hits storage tanker at Egyptian port on Mediterranean, security firm Ambri says. A drone hit a U.S.-owned gas storage tanker at Egypt's Mediterranean port of Damietta. British maritime security firm Ambri said in an initial assessment on Wednesday in a potential spread of the Middle East war. This seems like a huge story, doesn't it? To me it is. To me it does. The drone hit floating storage tanker Energos Winter, causing a fire that spread to another vessel. 3 trading sources familiar with the incident said. A statement from Egypt's petroleum ministry confirmed a fire at the port but made no mention of a drone attack. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the incident, which the ministry said was dealt with immediately with no casualties. Also, yes, a bunch of people in the chat think it's a big story. Princess Kidda says it's big. The anonymous prepper channel says spreading war. Static Nouveau says they're reaching further. Antonia Montana says, especially since it's a U.S.-owned vessel. I7, I saw a video online which supposedly is of the ship on fire. I don't own the rights to that video. If I get video that I have the rights to, I'll show it to you. I don't own the rights to the one I saw online. I couldn't tell if it was legit. I just don't know. But I'm sure eventually I'll have something I can show you, but I'll keep an eye out. Bobby Cole thinks it's big. Soupson thinks it's being underreported bigly. By the way, big thanks to Frozen Ghost, who gave 5 memberships in the chat. That's very nice of you. Please thank Frozen Ghost if you got a membership. Let me go back and just show you again where we're talking about here. It's only about 30 miles from the northern entrance to the Suez Canal. So if I go over here, I'm going to show you on marine traffic. This is ship tracking, marine analytics provider, marine traffic. So we're talking about, again, there is the Strait of Hormuz down there. There's Iran. There's the Persian Gulf. There's the Red Sea. There's Saudi Arabia. There's Yemen. Here is Egypt here. And we're talking about the Suez Canal connects the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea, if I have that right. And anyways, that's in here. And then up here is a port in Egypt called Damietta. And right there, next to 2 tugboats, is that where it is? There are 2 tugboats next to it right now. That is our ship, Energos Winter. That is a U.S.-owned, Marshall Islands flagged, floating storage / production ship. It's a large ship. I believe it was said that this ship was over 800 feet long, 277 meters long. And what you can see is, if we go to vessel details, no, we want past track. This ship, it was there at, so that right there is 1 p.m. This happened pretty recently, it looks like, because if my math is correct, that is actually no. That says that would be universal time. That's not right. No, I'm sorry. That's wrong. That is wrong. Sorry. The time is right. My calculation was wrong. So it was there. Let's see. What are the times here? That's all right there. That's July 29th, and that's 9 a.m. Eastern time. So at 9 a.m. Eastern time today, it was right here. See that? It's right there. And then what happened? When did it move? Oh, so that's how it moved. But it started being moved around. They started moving it. That's 8 a.m. today, Eastern time, and that's about 9 a.m. So starting at 8 a.m., I believe the ship was moved away because it was on. From what I understand, from what Kapler said, after it was hit, it was moved out of the into the water, or right off the coast, right off, so close to the coast. So that was all happening this morning because that's around 8-9 a.m. this morning Eastern time, and you can see the ship ended up getting moved over to. There, and that's where it is now, that ship. They have moved it further into the water and away from the coast, away from land, and it is surrounded, it is next to 2 tugboats. Look at that. There's 2 tugboats. Here's one tugboat. the Saleh. And this tugboat, it went out there, and it's been going back and forth. That's the tugboat. That is the tugboat pass track from. That's the pass track of the tugboat from marine traffic. One tugboat, and then the other one near it. Where is it here? The other tugboat is here. Let's look at the past track of that. 2 minutes ago, track. Yeah, that tugboat's been going back and forth out there too, doing whatever it needs to do. So that ship is now, again, next to two tugboats. The ship, the U.S. Energos Winter, the floating storage production gas ship. Oh, President Trump is doing an announcement. Thanks. Hold on, I froze again for some reason, which I'll unfreeze myself. But thanks to the viewer for letting me know. President Trump's doing an appearance right now. So he might answer some questions. He's talking about Dulles Airport, but he might actually answer some questions about Iran. So let's go over to, thanks for letting me know in the chat. Let's go over to Trump talking right now. I'm going to put Trump on the screen. Hold on. I didn't unfreeze myself like I was going to. Hold on. Now the camera's, there we go. I'm back. Sorry about the weird camera issues today. All right, let's go look at Trump speaking right now. There is Trump. That's live. Put the volume on.
Of crime are unparalleled for what we're doing. For years, the United States has watched other major cities around the globe welcome travelers with grand and modern airports. Yet, the last major airport built in the United States was Denver in 1995, and it hasn't gotten very great reviews. That's more than 30 years ago. So we're doing something with Dulles that's going to make it, I think, the top, maybe the top anywhere in the world. And by the way, Palm Beach is going to be one of the top too. Palm Beach is going to be incredible what the plans are. The people, Joe, and all the people working in Palm Beach that have done such an incredible job. That's going to be an unbelievable airport very shortly. So it's time to ensure that the United States has the greatest airports anywhere in the world, and we're starting right here with the capital city. And you can see just before Sean goes up, if you take a look, this is only showing the terminal in one rung, but you have numerous of them. You have here, 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 and you have a spine coming. Here's your main entrance. You have a spine coming right through the building into these massive ports. Now, the planes won't have to be bothered because we drop down a little bit and our walkway is underneath. We have walking systems that go very quickly, or you can walk because it's very close. But this is it. So you enter here. You have a parking garage, which will be built right here. This whole thing is parking garage. Probably 32,000 cars. That'll be a world record, and very convenient. And then you'll have glass tunnels that go into the airport right from here. So you'll be one story above. This road stays, beautified and stays. We keep this. This is your landmark. This is all new. This is your first tunnel, and then you drop down from there on. And so that when you have the planes, we'll be able to go right across without having to go back, make turns or anything else. It's going to be amazing. It'll be one of the largest airports anywhere in the world, and I think it'll be actually one of the most efficient and the best. So I'd like to ask Secretary Duffy to say a few words, and then Jack Potter, and I'd like to welcome a very great gentleman to our midst, Jensen Huang, who's here someplace, and he's, if we can do with an airport like he does with chips, it'll be the greatest airport anywhere in the world. He looks at this problem as being a very simple, problem to solve because his chips are a little bit more complicated. But it's important that he's able to travel nicely along with everybody else. And right now, this is not a very good airport. We're going to make it a great airport. Sean, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. So to your point, the president has worked incredibly hard to make D.C. safe and beautiful. I think this is the cherry on the top, Mr. President. This is the gateway to the world from our nation's capital. And any of you who've traveled through Dulles, it is dark, it is dated, a little dank maybe. It's not a great airport. And so we had multiple architects come in and present to the president. And we are blessed that not only does he give his time to really important matters, but he gave his building skill to take the best of all the designs and come up with this concept. So just if I could quickly point out, we keep the Saarinen building, so that's going to be the foyer, a whole new head house. We are going to get rid of the people movers, Mr. President. So if you don't know what these are like elevated buses. It's kind of like, it looks like it's from Star Wars, if you will. And they're slow and people are angry about them. We are going to get rid of those. We are going to have a horseshoe train system throughout the airport. And as you mentioned, right down the spine of the airport is going to be a walkway. So easy access to all of your gates, fast movement. And what I like the president, he was like, listen, we have to have great parking. So when you pull up to the airport, you have easy access to the concourses, to the terminal. And so I think this is one of the best designs, Mr. President, probably because you actually did it, that you'll see in the country as a whole. We've had, this is bipartisan, Mr. President. A lot of people, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you hate the way Dulles operates. So everyone's come together and we're building for America and building for the future. And it's your vision that made this happen, so thank you for doing this. And it's going to be, I think, it's going to be the premier airport in our country when you're done with it.
Well, thus far, what John said about bipartisan really is bipartisan, and I don't know if that's because it's the right thing to do, which it is, but it's also that whether you're a Republican or Democrat, you don't want to go and be subjected to this airport, because this airport is it's a terrible place to be, and it's going to be, I believe it's going to go, it'll be rated, within a few years, it'll be rated the best airport in the country. So it's going to be so efficient. Right now, it's totally inefficient. Between the trams and the Star Wars thing that they call it, the Star Wars, and elevated buses, and nobody knows what's going on. It's a real mess. And as you know, United is subjected to it. It doesn't help United very much. He's been very much involved with what we've done, and other airlines too. And I have to say that we've had over 30 architects and 30 different designs, and we did a little cherry picking, and we spoke to a lot of people about it, and we've come up with a plan that's efficient and really beautiful, and I think it's going to give you one of the most beautiful, keeping the Saarinen. So Saarinen was one of the great architects of the world, and when he built this 30 years ago, I guess, or about that, this was considered one of the eighth wonder of the world. This was considered the greatest terminal anywhere in the country, and it needs some work, it needs some fix up, but it'll be architecturally amazing, the rounded glass and the whole thing, massive sheets of glass. Cost was no object, unfortunately or fortunately, and we're going to be using that, and it's going to be fixed. We're using it again as the primary entrance, and almost that's about it, because essentially this is a brand new airport, and yet we're going to be able to work it well enough that it'll work at least as efficiently as it works right now. And in the end, you're going to end up with, I think, maybe the best airport and one of the biggest airports anywhere in the world. And it's going to be a great thing for Washington, D.C. So could I ask Jack to say a few words, please?
Yes.
Jack?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your inspiration here and challenge. You challenged all of us to step into the issues that you just described. We're very proud of the process that we've gone through. We're very happy that United Airlines, the Airports Authority, and the other airlines have agreed to step up and fund this thing. So this is not requiring federal dollars. This is going to be airport-generated dollars, airline contributions, which is phenomenal. It means that we're off to a fast start here. We're engaging with the Saarinen family to make sure that they stay intimately involved with this. All the aspects that were just described, I think, will make this a world-class airport. And you challenged us to do this. We're building off of growth, though. I have to tell you, our airport was the fastest growing airport in 24 and 25 of any large airport in the country. So we're going to continue to build on the momentum that we have, and we're excited about taking on this challenge, and it will be a challenge to construct this. And our goal is to construct it and make sure that the traveling public there'll be minimal impact to them as they transit through our airport. So again, Mr. President, thank you for your inspiration, and we look forward to you to continue to participate in this in the coming years, because we're going to bring designs to you and other things. So we very much look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. Great job, Tim. Scott, would you like to say something?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Secretary and Jack and everyone. We're really, at United, we're really excited to have this project get off the ground. The terminal that's out there today was built 45 years ago and was meant to be temporary. And so I've spent my whole career at United Airlines waiting for this day, and all the people of United Airlines have spent even longer waiting for the day that we could have really the best airport in the world. And this design is one that works great for the airline. The President talked about how it works great for on the outside for the airline, but it's going to be a beautiful airport inside for customers. It's something that all of us at United, but really all Americans will be able to be proud of, having an airport when people come into the capital that really represents what the United States of America stands for. So I'm proud of it as a CEO of United, but proud of it as an American as well. That's right.
It's going to be a great one. Thank you. Thank you for your help. And Trent, would you like to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership on this. On behalf of the MWA board, this is something that everyone's tried to do for decades, and no one's been able to get it done. And without the President's leadership on it, we'd be back in square one. So thank you for your leadership on this project. Thank you to United and the Department of Transportation for moving this along as quickly as possible.
One of the things that is interesting, they were going to build this over a 60-year period. They were going to start with a little section here, a little section there, and that wouldn't have worked. It wasn't a design like this, but it wouldn't have worked. So we're doing it all at one time. It'll all be completed, and it'll be beautiful, and it'll be something very special. Would you like to say something?
Thank you, Mr. President. I really want to thank the Airport Authority and United Airlines for your partnership, the board of the Airport Authority. Your partnership is critical to make this happen. I know you had a plan to improve the airport, but as the President said, it was a long-term plan. We thought it was too modest, too slow, too modest. And with
60 years isn't too long.
Decades. But with the President's attention and focus on this, it's accelerated, it's expanded, and we're actually going to realize the vision, and a much greater vision now. So it's a very exciting day for Washington, for the whole nation.
Well, these people have all been fantastic, and they want to see it get done and get done properly, and it should be done as one airport, not being built in chunks, which would have been, frankly, a catastrophe, I think. So thank you very much. You have any questions?
Mr. President, thank you, Mr. President. Very quickly on this issue, did you just say 2 years? It would take 2 years to finish this?
We think we can get it started fairly quickly. It's largely financed. And we need some approvals from Congress probably, but generally speaking, it's been very bipartisan.
And then on the attack, the drone attack on the LNG tanker off of Egypt, what can you tell us about that? And is there any indication it's Iran related? Does it represent a
Well,
widening
I'll give you a report. I've been briefed. It's a little more of the same, but it's going to be straightening out. It's going to be straightening out. In the meantime, we're going to be hitting them very hard because it's our turn to hit them. They know it's coming. They're asking us not to do it, but they tried shooting it last night. So we had 5 rockets shot going 8,500 miles an hour, and all 5 rockets were knocked down to the ground. But they nevertheless took a shot, so it's our turn. And we'll see if we get there with an agreement at some point, but we're going to hit them very hard.
Mr. President, first on this, is this expected to affect any incoming or outgoing flights?
No, we think we can do it without a lot of disruption, very little.
And then
it might even be better.
On Leader Thune, what's your reaction to him saying that there's no evident path to success on killing the filibuster or passing the State of America Act?
Well, that's too bad for him. I mean, that's too bad for him and too bad for the Republican Party.
Do you believe that?
He's got the votes. He should get it done. He should be able to get it done.
Mr. President, thank you. Dr. Fauci invoked the Fifth Amendment more than 100 times today.
Yes, sir.
Senator Rand Paul said he's going to hold a vote on holding him in contempt of Congress. Do you think Dr. Fauci should face repercussions for this?
Well, I watched the whole thing today, but more importantly, I was a part of the whole Fauci. I inherited Fauci. He was here from the 1980s, so I had him for a period of time. And I disagreed with him on a lot. I would have had to close down the whole country if I listened to him. I went the Federalist way, which is basically let the governors decide. And generally speaking, the Republican governors did very well. The Democrat governors did not very well. but Fauci wanted to have nobody wearing masks, if you remember, and then everybody had to wear 5 masks, as many masks as you could get. I mean, made a lot of mistakes, and he wasn't a big factor for me. He was a very big factor for Biden. And if you remember, even though we were sort of prime time in terms of that whole disaster of COVID, far people died, fewer in the Trump administration than in the Biden administration. We ran it well. Operation Warp Speed was talked about as being one of the great success stories anywhere in the world, actually. And we did a good job. But many more people died under Biden than died in the Trump administration from COVID. COVID was a disaster, but Fauci did not help.
Mr. President, do you think that the DOJ should reopen the investigation into the auto pen, specifically pertaining to Fauci?
Well, the only thing you can really think about is the auto pen, because the most powerful thing the president has, they say, is the power of pardon. So he was pardoned by Biden, and I respect that. I know how powerful it is. It's a very powerful, they say it's literally the most powerful thing a president has. Now, whether or not I sign my things directly, always, almost everything I sign directly. You're witness to many of them. He signed very few. The only thing I know that he signed was Hunter Biden's pardon. But I'm not sure that he signed, he probably didn't sign this one. So I can't tell you what the law is. I've heard that you have to have a lot of proof. You need to have letters. You need to have all sorts of things that the person operating the auto pen has to know exactly what it's all about. He didn't know what it was about because I saw him testify. So maybe there's something on the auto pen. Other than that, the power of pardon is very powerful.
One question briefly on the.
Thank you. Beth Turner, GB News. We've just heard you talking about another example of American excellence. That's really what this is a project where you're striving to be the best in the world. As a Brit, that's really striking to me. You've had a couple of weeks to get to know our new Prime Minister. Have you spoken to him much? And do you think he is the man to lead us to excellence?
Well, he did say one very good thing. He said he's going to open up North Sea oil. If he does that, you're going to be a wealthy country. If he does it reasonably. I was telling Prime Minister Starmer, open up the North Sea. Open it up. You'll be okay. Open it up. They have 2 problems. They have a huge immigration problem. People coming from all over the world and just camping out in your country. And we've taken a very tough stand. In fact, for 14 months, nobody has come into our country. 0, which is almost hard to believe, but that's what the report says. Our borders become very strong, and your border's very weak. He's got that problem, and he's got energy problem. He's got windmills all over the place, and anytime you see windmills, you see a failing country. And they're made in China, not used by China, but they're made in China. And you have a thing called the North Sea, and you buy a lot of your energy, as you know, from the North Sea. You buy from Norway. And Norway gets it from the North Sea. They get their oil from the North Sea. And Norway's got trillions of dollars in the bag, trillions. It sells its oil from the North Sea. And Scotland has a better part of the North Sea. And you have 500, 600, 700 years. You have areas of the North Sea that haven't even been explored yet. You have one of the most valuable oil finds anywhere in the world. And if the United Kingdom would use it, they'd be a wealthy country again. And I tell you what, I could not get Starmer to use it. It was incredible. Every oil company that I meet, and these are all big giants, every person that I know in the oil business said, please, could you open up the North Sea? Could you get them to open it? They're dying to do it. And if you open up the North Sea to the oil companies, Scotland, Ireland, the UK as a whole, but it's right in Aberdeen, Scotland. It's right in Aberdeen. And that would be one of the most vibrant. You know, it used to be called the oil capital of Europe. Aberdeen was the capital of Europe. And now it's, they don't drill oil. And nobody can understand why. You have it's among the finest oil, it's the best oil anywhere on the planet. And it's unbelievable plenty. You don't have to pay Norway triple what it costs them to take out. You have your own oil and gas. If you use the North Sea, the UK will be a really rich country. I cannot get the point across. The new gentleman, when I spoke to him, He said he's going to open up the North Sea. Let's see if that's
true. The Fed today voted to keep interest rates unchanged. Are you surprised by that? Are you disappointed in any way with Kevin Warsh and not being able to corral Fed members?
Yeah, Kevin's got a board. He's fantastic. He's a brilliant guy, smart. I know he'd love to see lower interest rates, but he's got a board, and it's a political board, and they want to keep rates up. But we fight through rates. We have the strongest investment ever made in a country, of any country. It was China about 13, 14 years ago. We have far greater, 19 even Jensen would say that's a lot. 19, and Jensen's spending a tremendous amount of money by hundreds of billions of dollars. He happens to be in the room. He's spending more than United, actually.
Yes.
But he's spending 10 billion, but Jensen's spending hundreds of billions, right? I don't know. That's not a bad business idea. But no, we have 19.2 trillion. It's the biggest number ever spent in any country by far, and that's over a period of 1 year. As an example, as you know, the Biden administration for 4 years did much less than 1 trillion. We're doing 19.2 trillion in 1 year. So we have things that are happening in our country, the likes of which nobody's ever seen. Plants and factories are moving in. Toyota just announced they're building one of the largest car plants anywhere in the world, and truck plants anywhere in the world. We are building more automobile plants now than at any time in the history of our country.
President Dulles in particular, this is just one of several projects that you have underway in the DMV. Why would you say that you're so focused on transforming the Washington region right now?
Well, this is an important one. This is travel. So in terms of the importance, I think the Arc is going to be incredible. I think the protected ballroom and military center that we're building at the White House is going to be unbelievable. It's very important. But, this is the airport. This is sort of the lifeblood of a city or a capital, certainly a capital. And this will go from one of the worst, just like Washington. Washington was one of the worst places in this country, and now it's one of the best. You couldn't get into a restaurant because all the restaurants were closing or closed. They were afraid to have it open. Now you can't, if you're a restaurateur, you can't even find space to have a restaurant. The restaurants are booming. So, it's a great thrill. And by the way, if you look, Washington is clean, it's safe, people walk to work. Every day a young man or a young woman comes up and says, "Thank you, sir." I know exactly what he's talking about. They couldn't wait. They were afraid to walk to work. Now they literally walk to the White House. Washington is now a beautiful and clean. We got rid of the graffiti. 78 monuments and different things have been cleaned. They were strewn with graffiti. We had 28 fountains that not one of them worked. For years, for decades, they haven't worked. They're all up in service, and nobody's seen anything like it. We have a clean, we're changing all the grass in all the parks. That's going to be changed very shortly. The parks are, because the grass is very, grass is like human beings. Grass has a life also. And we're changing, we're raking, cleaning, and changing all of the parks. We don't have people, we don't have the tents anymore. We don't have all the barbed wire up, we don't have the wire up. Washington's become a beautiful city. It's become a hot city. But, even more importantly, the United States right now is the hottest country anywhere in the world.
Mr. President, just a point of clarity on the airport. No federal funding will be required. What did you mean when you said Congress may need to approve?
So it's going to be bonded for $22.5 billion. United is going to partake in part of the payment, but the airlines who participate in the project are going to pay for it. If I can just make one point of clarification.
Yeah, please.
Some permitting we have to do, but we think in the spring, this is both Concourse A. We think we can start construction in the spring of next year. So we're trying to move at the speed of President Trump. It's never fast enough, but we're going as quickly as possible so we can give a deliverable to the American people.
And the other thing Sean's doing, which I think is so important, maybe more important, I don't know if it can be more important than this, but he's working on air traffic control. We have an obsolete system. It's 50 years old. You saw the helicopter crash a year ago into a plane. That was a disaster. And things like that would never happen. Bells would have gone off in 4 or 5 minutes before it happened. You would have heard the bells and whistles would have gone off. And a thing like that couldn't have happened if you had proper air control. So what's happened is we're working very hard on getting the finest in the country now, in the world. We've examined the systems of almost every good country in terms of air traffic control all over the world. And we have the best people working on it in the world. And it'll make, I mean, so often you'll see somebody even bunking into each other at an airport. But where planes come too close, where planes, in the case of the helicopter the helicopter hits the plane, we are working on air traffic control to redo the entire system, including the new towers, because the towers are obsolete. You know, you don't think of it. You see a tower and it looks fine. You go into those towers, they're literally falling down. So we're talking about new towers and all new air traffic control, which will give us the safest anywhere in the world.
Mr. President,
why do you think Dr. Fauci invoked the Fifth Amendment so many times today when he has the pardon? And what was stopping him from just giving an honest testimony this morning?
Well, look, I've never been a big fan of Fauci. Why he did that was very simple. His lawyer told him to. You know, I don't know if he would have been better off not doing it. There were a lot of questions that I guess he could have answered, and some maybe he didn't feel comfortable in answering, but his lawyer told him to do that.
Mr. President, on Iran.
Prime Minister Andy Burnham hasn't mentioned publicly migration at all since he's gone into number 10. Did you discuss it with him?
I did, briefly. He's going to have to mention it because it's killing your country.
Mr. President.
Killing you.
He won't talk to GB News.
He's killing your country.
He won't talk to
And not him. I mean, we'll have to see. I know Starmer did very little about it. And they're coming from all over the world. They're coming from Africa. They're coming from South America. They're coming from different parts of Asia. And they're invading Europe. I mean, they're invading Europe. It's an invasion. And the UK is a prime suspect.
Mr. President, on Todd Blanche, Senator John Cornyn of Texas has been hesitant to back the confirmation. Seems to be some sort of deal that he's talking about. What is your reaction to his hesitancy?
Well, all I can say is Todd Blanche is outstanding. And I thought it was pretty routine because he's so good. You just wouldn't find a better person. So I don't know, maybe John Cornyn's upset with me because I didn't endorse him. I don't know what it is, but I haven't heard that there's a problem. I heard he's going through quite nicely.
And do you think Senate Majority Leader John Thune, after the comments you heard regarding Save America and some other stuff, do you think he's still the man for the job?
Well, we're going to find out, and I'll let you know.
Mr. President, it was a beautiful service yesterday for Senator Graham, beautiful eulogy that you delivered. As far as Senator Darlene Graham is concerned, based upon your conversations, is she going to focus primarily on foreign affairs like her brother, or will she focus more on domestic issues?
I think domestic, really. I've spoken to her a lot, and she's much more focused on domestic, including costs and pricing.
And
I think she'll be outstanding.
Mr. President, Jay Clayton, he was just confirmed by the Senate.
Yeah, he's great.
Would you like to see him continue with Bill Pulte's work at exposing election
Oh yeah,
interference
sure.
in
I'm sure he will.
2020?
Bill did a great job, and Jay is has just been confirmed. And you know, he's outstanding. He was the head of Sullivan and Cromwell for many years, and he's very outstanding. And I think he's going to do a fantastic job. And Bill was great. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, in light of advanced ChatGPT AI models escaping their lab and conducting cyber attacks, are you considering stronger controls on AI, and would you consider negotiating?
Well, we're looking at AI. We're looking at controls. We're also making sure that we lead. So we're leading China in AI by a lot. China has virtually no controls. It's freewheeling a little bit. So we have to be careful in both ways. We don't want to restrict them, where all of a sudden we come in second to China. Whoever wins with AI is going to win. That's how big it is. So it's bigger than the internet ever was. It's bigger than anything ever was. So I don't want to restrict. I know many of these people. I don't want to restrict them from doing great work. Yeah, please.
Under what scenario do you see Iran attacking U.S. installations and personnel overseas and you withdrawing? Or
I don't see that. No, we're not. No, we're gonna hit them very hard. I mean, I can actually say that because there's very little they can do about it. It was a different group than we're dealing with. They've already apologized, but you know, we got to smack them a little bit.
Mr. President, are you going to hit back when they strike?
Will I always hit back?
Yes.
Pretty much. Yes.
Mr. President, just on a point of clarity on that, sir, is that in response to the attempted ballistic missile strike on Jordan last night? When you say it's our turn to hit back.
Yeah, I think more so that, yeah, because it was another smaller event. But no, they sent 8,000 mile-an-hour missiles at us, And fortunately, we had our people operating the greatest equipment in the world, namely the Patriot system. Think of it, 5 missiles going 8,600 miles an hour, big ones, coming right at us, and all 5 were shot down. How about that, right? Pretty good. Nobody else could do that but us, yeah.
How was your meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky yesterday?
It was good.
Do you see a time scale for getting
No,
that?
it was good. Look, he's out doing his thing. I'd like him to end the war. So it's very simple. I get along with both. I get along with President Putin. I get along with President Zelensky. And like I told him, I want to end the war, get the war ended. Thousands of people, 25,000 people died last month. That's standard. And it's not acceptable. So I said, just end the war.
Mr. President, on the war, do you want the House to come back before August 31st to act on the Russia and Iran sanctions bill after it
Well,
goes
if
to
it's
Senate?
necessary. I mean, it shouldn't be necessary, to be honest. But if it's necessary, I'd like to, are you talking about the Lindsey Graham?
Yeah.
So I'd like them to add Iran as tariffs, not just as sanctions. I think it's important. That's what Lindsey wanted, because I heard that they have tariffs on Russia, but not on those 5 countries with having to do with Iran. I'd like to see tariffs on Iran. It would make it much stronger. So perhaps you're very good at this. You can maybe tell them. I think they should put in for Russia, but I think they should put in for Iran. And that's really what Lindsey wanted. Yep.
And on Iran, one more, sir, sorry.
And good job at the dinner the other night.
Thank you.
Did a great job.
Thank you, I appreciate that. President Xi told you that China would not give or sell Iran any weapons. And there's a new report that Iran's about to get 400 rocket launchers from China going through Pakistan to Iran.
Well, that would be surprising. I mean, things like that happen, but that would be surprising. He told me very strongly he wouldn't partake, and he knows I'd be quite disappointed. Yeah, please.
Mr. President,
And he's coming here, I think, on September 24th.
2 questions. First, we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of 9/11, and a good number of 9/11 families have called on New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani to not attend a number of these memorial services. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they're having a hard time with Mamdani. The people having to do with anybody having to do with 9/11 right now, on the victim side, and there are a lot of them, they're very unhappy with what's going on in New York, and they're very unhappy with the mayor. I understand that. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Republicans are underway negotiating the budget. Would you sign a CR without the Save America Act protection? That's something you want to see?
I'll have to look at it, but they should get to Save America. How simple can it be? Voter identification, proof of citizenship. I mean, now you have to understand the Democrats, not one Democrat will sign because they want to cheat. There's no way they can get elected if they don't, if that happens. But we should have unanimous Republican support. And if we don't, people should look at those Republicans. But think of it. Who would not sign voter identification with photo? And who would not sign proof of citizenship? Only people that want to cheat. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Bev.
Thank you. Next time. Go this way as well.
Hey, thank you guys. You can head out this way.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. You can head out this way. Thank you.
I want to quickly just show you what President Trump said right at the beginning. He was asked about the reported drone attack on a U.S.-owned tanker in Egypt today. And I wanted to mention that, just show you what he said. But also, remember, he also said that the U.S. is going to be, Trump says the U.S. is going to be hitting Iran back hard. He says it's our turn. It's our turn to hit them, he said. Is that going to happen tonight? I don't know, but that's what he said. All right, let's just go to the, let me cue up when he is talking about the questions. Here, right here. All right, so this is going to be moments ago. This is him being asked about the incident in Egypt and talking about Iran. This is moments ago.
The drone attack on the LNG tanker off of Egypt.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that? And is there any indication it's Iran related? Does it represent a
Well,
wide
I'll give you a report. I've been briefed. It's a little more of the same. but it's going to be straightening out. It's going to be straightening out. In the meantime, we're going to be hitting them very hard because it's our turn to hit them. They know it's coming. They're asking us not to do it, but they tried shooting it last night. So we had 5 rockets shot going 8,500 miles an hour, and all 5 rockets were knocked down to the ground. But they nevertheless took a shot, so it's our turn. And we'll see if we get there with an agreement at some point, but we're going to hit them very hard.
Mr. President, first.
All right, so he said, we're going to hit him very hard. He said the drone attack thing, he's been briefed. He said something like it's more of the same, which I'm a little confused about. I don't know if that means that it's about Iran. And he says it's our turn. So he said they're going to be hitting Iran very hard and it's our turn. And also remember that earlier today, President Trump told Fox News, we're going to beat the blanking blank out of them, effing S out of them. And he warned Iran is going to get a beating. Yeah, Trey Yingst reported this on Trey Yingst reported this on Fox News today. He says we're going to beat the effing S out of them, but he literally said the words. So I don't know if that's going to be tonight or what, assuming it happens. And will the attack be different than the other attack, like the attacks we saw for 13 straight days recently? That I also don't know. Yeah, Fox News said President Trump told Trey Yingst we're going to beat in response to in the aftermath of Iran launching missiles at U.S. forces yesterday in Jordan. He told Trey Yingst of Fox News, we're going to beat the effing S out of them. We'll be hitting them hard. They're going to get a beating. So that's happening. I don't know when. Well, he says it's happening. Let me take some comments from you guys. Right now, it's 11:15 p.m. Iran time. Usually after the stock market is fully closed, said our viewer. I can't see the comment anymore. One of our viewers said it was usually after the stock market's closed. It's 3:46 right now. The stock market closes in 14 minutes. By the way, thanks so much to Texas Woman for the gift memberships. Texas Woman 67, thank you. I Am Charlie. Thank you, I Am Charlie, for all your support. That's really nice of you. I Am Charlie, big thank you. J.A. Tria, thanks for being a member. One Way Street, hey, one of our moderators. Thanks so much, One Way Street, for your support. Good to see you, and also for moderating. Thank you, One Way Street. And Lidwine Elizabeth from the Netherlands, who says, windmills are our culture. Dutch culture. Some are beautiful pieces of art. We got by as Dutch ones on our own. That's what Lidwine Elizabeth says. Thank you so much, Lidwine Elizabeth, for your support. Also, ECW 5394, who says, worst thing ever. Arriving in Dulles after all-night international flight and having to take the Star Wars People Mover to customs. Thanks also Stephen Briones, Major Schlem. Thanks so much, Major Schlem. And I do want to mention quickly, I don't want to linger on it, regarding President Trump's announcement about Dulles Airport. Here's a little summary here. Trump set to unveil Dulles makeover after months of personal edits. This is from the Wall Street Journal. This was earlier, from the Washington Post. This was a little earlier today. They said President Trump was set today to announce a sweeping plan to remake Dulles International Airport, including building new terminals and doing away with the airport's long criticized shuttles. They have a picture here. It says the mobile loungers or people movers. There's a picture from the Washington Post of one of the mobile loungers or people movers. Let me just do this quickly so you can actually see it a little better. There, that's what one of them looks like. That's from the Washington Post. There. Hold on. According to the Washington Post, President Trump has spent months considering how to overhaul Dulles Airport. Hearing pitches in the Oval Office from rival construction and design firms and looking at mock-up designs. Under his plan, the current underground train would be fully built out to take passengers to their terminals rather than relying on the airport shuttles nicknamed people movers, and 5 terminals would be built to replace the 4 existing ones, the people said. Now, I'm not I didn't watch President Trump's whole announcement about this. I don't know how much detail he went into, but this is what the Washington Post said that they had heard about the plan. The Trump-approved design also calls for large glass windows and gold accents throughout the airport, such as high gold mirrored ceilings. Meanwhile, a new underground tunnel would allow pedestrians to walk between the terminals, and more moving walkways would be added, the people said. United Airlines, which uses Dulles as a major hub, has agreed to help pay for the project, which is estimated to cost more than $20 billion and take years to complete, the people said. Dulles is about 25 miles from downtown Washington, D.C., and is run by the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, which would largely finance the renovations by issuing new bonds. So they basically borrow money and then they have to pay it back with interest. That's what issuing bonds is. You say, hey, lend me some money and I'll pay you back with interest later. The Post says Washingtonians make a habit of lamenting Dulles over its distance from the city and the airport's reliance on the mobile lounges that carry passengers to different areas of the airport. Mobile lounges are a distinct feature to Dulles. Originally designed by Saarinen in 1958, the modernist structure was built without any. The airport was built without any concourses or gates. The people movers were created as a solution for moving passengers between the airport terminals and gates. Anyways, that's an interesting topic. I don't want to go into it too much. But I have no, there's a difference between talking about renovations and having them actually happen. So I don't have a good sense of how long that could all take and everything and what the timeline might be. Let's see here. Laura C. says, more borrowing, that's a great idea. Now, that might be the standard way to finance these things. I don't know. Let's see. Some of our viewers are mentioning the stock market. Let me show you the current stock prices here. Hold on. Hang on a moment. We're close to the end of the trading day for stocks. We'll also show you crypto too. But here's a quick overview from barchart.com. Now, I think this is on a 10-minute delay, I think, or something like that. But as of 10 minutes ago, roughly, it was S&P 500 down roughly 1%, S&P 100 down roughly 1%, Dow down almost 2%, and NASDAQ down about 1%. But I also can maybe get an update here. Yeah, so this is actually updated Dow. This is from TradingView. That's, I think, real time, and that's Dow is down 2.2%. Looks like it went down. This was about one, like in the last hour. Basically in the last hour it went down some. It was at 52,232. So it went down like 1% in the last hour or so. Or more than 1% in the last hour. And then let me just check something here. I'm checking one thing here. Yeah, so in terms of the S&P, that's delayed. This is this index, which is the S&P 500 feed. This one I'm looking at on TradingView is supposed to approximate the real time. And that says down 1.4% for S&P 500. And then this is a NASDAQ feed on TradingView that's supposed to approximate real time. And that's down 1.86%. That's not official, but you can see in the last hour that shows a drop of about, actually that's a lot. That's about, in the last hour, that's a drop of over 2%. Then Bitcoin is down about 0.5% on the day, although also Bitcoin in the last hour or so is down from 64,500 to 63,500. Now, is this, look, I'm not a markets expert. I mean, the Fed decision was not an hour ago. The Fed decision was actually like 2 hours ago. So, I can't speak to the specifics of why it's moving at a certain time. That I don't know. If you're wondering about the price of oil, so oil prices, that's Brent crude, it is up a bunch since yesterday. Yesterday around noon, Brent crude was 81.19, and now it's 88.32. So since yesterday around noon, Brent crude has gone up roughly what, 78? Like 7 or 8%. Similarly with WTI crude, I mean, that was around noon yesterday. It was about 78 or so, and now it's almost 85. SpaceX, for those following that, is currently at 111. The IPO price was, I think, 135 to get in on it. And then if you actually wanted to trade it that day, I think it opened at 150 that day, if I'm right. If you wanted to just start trading it on that day and you didn't get any of the initial offering, and now it's at 111.82. Yeah, just out of interest, this is the all-time chart there for, I think it was around a month ago. No, that's the all-time chart for SpaceX. So you can see it would start, 150 and got up, I think, over 200 at some point. Anyways, this is not, you can do what you want with your, I'm not giving any financial advice. Some people were talking about it in the chat, so I figured I'd mention it. Snarf Maru says it goes up, it goes down. Paulo Majorana thinks it's a buy and hold. Anyways, President Trump says, hey, the market's going to close in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, we have market close, guys. Let's look at the Dow. I believe that's real-time Dow from tradingview.com, down 2.17%. Some of our viewers think that maybe, at least one of our viewers thinks that maybe after the market closes, we'll get what President Trump's going to say, an attack on Iran. President Trump says the U.S. is going to strike Iran. Going to hit them hard, said President Trump. Thanks, Lucky Yuki, for being a member. Hey, thank you. Also, Least Trustworthy Weasel. Paul Jones thinks Trump will save the retaliation until Friday. Yeah, I don't know that he specifically said tonight. I know he said a couple times we're going to hit him hard. I don't know that he specifically said tonight when he was talking. Oopsie. What did I do? All right. It's just about closing time for the market. Thanks, Lowkey 1988, for being a member. So we're just watching for the market to close. Sometimes Trump will be specific and he'll say, like, we're going to hit him hard tonight. I don't know that he said tonight in his appearance. Some viewers think he didn't say it. All right, so it is now 4 p.m. I might take a little bit. Does it take a little bit for this to settle? Or is it just going to stop? Is it just stopped now? Or I don't know if things settle and it takes a couple minutes to get the final Dow price for the day, but you can see there, it says at close, at close. There it says at close from TradingView. And this isn't official, but that's supposed to track NASDAQ. So that's around 2.3% down. Russell 2000 around 1.77% down. And S&P 500 roughly 1.7% down. Anyways, we'll have to see. I don't know if the U.S. is going to strike Iran tonight. Oh, a viewer sent me, I was trying to find this. A viewer sent me the official post. Where was it? OSINT NJ. OSINT NJ breaking news sent me the link. I couldn't find it before, to the official post by Egypt about the drone attack. Why did it do that? Okay, hold on. So the Egypt Petroleum Ministry, they didn't say that much here. They said Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources confirms that as part of the immediate follow-up to any emergencies, a fire broke out on the tugboat and the storage ship. Supposedly it was on 2 tankers. Anyways, located in Damietta port, and the situation was dealt with immediately in accordance with the emergency plans and the approved rapid response plans, through the relevant authorities and the firefighting and safety teams at the site. As soon as the report was received, Engineer Karim Badawi, Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, moved to the site of the incident to monitor the situation on the ground, ensure the progress of control and safety measures, and ensure the implementation of all safety measures and the complete coordination between the relevant authorities until the situation is resolved in a safe manner. They don't even mention drones here. The ministry confirms the incident did not result in any injuries or human losses and that the emergency teams are in contact with the relevant technical authorities to complete the work and take the necessary measures in accordance with the approved standards. The necessary measures are being taken to assess the consequences of the situation. The Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources urges the media and social media users to obtain information from the official data issued by the ministry, confirming the continued follow-up of the situation and the announcement of any updates. Oh, thanks. By the way, Loki 1988 gave 10 people memberships. Thank you, Loki. That's very generous of you. Make sure you thank Loki 1988A if you got a membership from Loki. Thanks to eBiker for subscribing, if I didn't thank you before. Also, hey, quick thanks to our moderators on Twitch, Bastion Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, LB Prairie Dawn, Idaho Star, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai 3, and Flux Eternus. Big thank you. Also, we have moderating One Way Street and Ruth. Thanks so much for moderating over there on YouTube. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X. On Facebook, we have... Hang on a moment here. I know Kay was over there before, Kay Lowry Body, Paul Anderson, Andrea Holder, all of our Facebook mods. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what to think about. What about timing on a possible U.S. retaliation? Hang on. Looking at some of the other messages. Alex Malarkey, our viewer, says Trump has to do something meaningful. The Middle East is going crazy. Let me see if I have any updates here. I am checking for some updates from the Middle East. I have not heard any kind of statement taking responsibility for the attack, the drone attack on the U.S.-owned gas storage tanker. Hang on a moment. Also, I want to see if maybe some of the business news sites are reporting about that drone attack. I feel like it's strangely underreported, that drone attack. Seems like a big story to me. Looking at Bloomberg, I don't see anything there for now. Let's see. Nope, I see nothing about it on Bloomberg. Not aware of, don't see anything about it at Wall Street Journal. It's odd. I have a picture. I have pictures I can now show you from Reuters of the drone incident. I now have photos. Okay, what are these of? It says, water jets are fired at a gas tanker. Hold on. Water jets are fired at a gas tanker after a drone strike. And smoke rises from a gas tanker after a drone strike. Okay, so this is the Reuters story right here. Drone hits gas storage tanker, reportedly U.S.-owned ship at an Egypt's Mediterranean port. Ambry reports. And look at this. I have picture. There is a picture. Wow. So that is a water, that's water. Oh, those tugs, you know, we saw on, I don't know, but maybe what we saw were tugs near the ship on marine traffic were actually tugs, firefighting vehicles, vessels. Because we saw two tugs right near it. I don't know, though. Maybe that was after the firefighting vessels. I don't know. But there is a picture which shows water being poured onto the tanker. Then there's a second picture. If I can find it here. Where's the second picture? Look at this. Wow. Look at that. So that was the scene in Egypt. Again, the first picture is water jets are fired at a gas tanker after a drone strike. And then the second one is smoke rises from a gas tanker after a drone strike. They say social media via Reuters. This is from Reuters. Where's the first picture? Where's the water picture? There you go. Look at that. Wow. David says, how dare they attack our tanker? Now, again, this was a U.S.-owned tanker, but under the flag of the Marshall Islands. It's not like a military tanker. Hang on a moment here. And we don't know where this drone was launched from. Einherji says, nothing dramatic, carry on? Yes, the ship is 277 meters long. John Doe Radio says it's a big ship. According to marine traffic, it's 277 meters long. No, the U.S. has not hit back. The U.S. has not responded to this or to the missiles. I mean, Trump, when he talked today, seemed to be more talking about the missiles. The missile attack. I mean, I would think this could be, if they start attacking, if you have drone attacks starting in Egypt, that could make shipping there costly and keep ships from wanting to go there. And, you know, as I mentioned, it's about 30 miles away from the Suez Canal, from the northern end of the Suez Canal, which is being used by some, like Saudi Arabia, as a way to avoid the Houthis, because There's the Red Sea. The Houthis are down here in Yemen. They've been attacking some Saudi ships in the Red Sea. But to stay away from them, Saudi Arabia is sending apparently, some oil through the Suez Canal up here. But the Suez Canal gets out, I think, at Port Said, which is about 30 miles from where this drone attack happened. Yeah, so for example, Market Watch reported today that Saudi Arabia has a new and pricier. They're looking north to the Mediterranean Sea to export its crude oil, they said. And oilprice.com reported a few days ago that Houthi threats had forced at least one tanker with Saudi crude to take the Suez Canal rather than the Bab al-Mandeb Strait. One of our viewers, it flew away, the comment, I can't see it right now, but one of our viewers was saying that if insurance stops covering, or I guess you could also say if the rates get really high for the Strait of Hormuz and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and the Suez Canal, that could really put a lot of economic pressure on the world. But again, the Suez Canal has not been attacked so far. I'm just thinking that this was not that far away. Hey, I want to post a link to this. CSIS had a report today about diminished interceptors. Or that was a couple days ago, CSIS. According to CSIS, I just posted the link. There were, in the U.S. inventory on the day before the war, in February 27th, the U.S. had 2,330 Patriot interceptors, and now they have roughly 800. So from 2,330 to roughly 800. And also THAAD interceptors, according to CSIS, pre-war, U.S. had about 450. Now they have roughly 250. Mike says it's Pickaxe Mountain time. Hey, thanks Gilbert DeRilbert, who gave 5 memberships. That's really nice of you. Gilbert DeRilbert. Thanks so much. Please thank Gilbert if you got a message from Gilbert. Oh, Watcher Guru says Meta stock is dropping. Again, it's not really that related to what we're talking about, but just to show you, I follow Watcher Guru. Let's look at Meta. Meta stock, guys. What's happening? Oh, there we go. Yes. So if you look here, here's the 1-day chart, and the gray is after hours. Post-market down about 5%. It initially went down further, and then it came back up. I think there might have been an earnings announcement or something. I'm not going to get on to this now. Anyways, the gray line is the after hours. Oh, thanks to Just Joanne. You know, I'd read about this, but thanks for reminding me, Just Joanne. President Zelensky of Ukraine said today, about an hour ago, he said, "I received a report from Air Force Commander that the Russians prepared a massive attack several days ago, and there's a high probability that the strike will be carried out tonight." Now, this isn't like the first time ever this happens. Once in a while, this does happen where President Zelensky will say we have, intelligence that a large missile and drone attack is coming from Russia. And he is asking for more air defense missiles from other countries. So that could certainly happen in the coming hours. Thank you, Just Joanne. I was just checking to see if I had any more from Iran. Or Egypt. I don't right now. I'm not seeing anything big and new in the last few minutes from Iranian state media either. Hey, thanks also to Thomas P0419, who I think Thomas has given about 25 memberships today. Wow. That's really nice of you, Thomas. Please thank Thomas if you got a membership. Thank you. Also, Always Chasing the Rain gave 5 memberships. So nice of you, Always Chasing the Rain. Thank you so much. And let's see. I wonder... I have to figure out what I'm going to do. At some point, I'm going to have to eat something. So I'm trying to figure out how to schedule all of that. And I don't know, like, the other thing is I don't know, like, it could be a busy night. I don't know. I mean, we could do some coverage of Ukraine too, but I don't know if the U.S. will conduct strikes and when they might do that. It could be in 5 minutes. It could be tomorrow, Thank you, Erica Marie, for being a member. Thomas J. Doyle Burke says strikes will probably happen around 3 a.m. Iran time. The current time in Iran is it's like almost midnight. Yeah, this is it's a tough call today. I don't know how to plan everything. By the way, really quick, hey, thanks to our Twitch subscribers, Land24N, Susan CHF, AFK Alien, Steve God, CSint, Nummy Yummy, Recovering, Rump Addict, Digital Communist, DJ Saltlick, Pucker War. These are our Twitch subscribers. John Doe Radio, Kendra Fox, Orville B, Penulta, Aaron Weirdo, Brand Nubian, Pre-Breakfast Banana. Thanks to all of our Twitch subscribers. CSint, Susan CHF, Wall Street Shaggy, thanks Asata for chatting. Hot Richard, Johannes Kreikhammer, thanks for subscribing, a million. And shout out to some of our members on YouTube. Rio, Tony G, JK Cinar, Always Chasing the Rain, Bailey, Barely Tamed, Barry, Mike A, Lucky Yucky, Stephen Parmy, Sean Van Horn, Miss Link, Cac, Kerry Poteet, Joseph, Laser, Evelyn and Maine, and all of our members. All right, here's my thought. This is what I'm thinking. I don't know if this will work. My thought is that maybe what I would do is, oh, Ma Florida, thanks for subscribing too. Maybe because I don't know what's going to happen, but maybe my thought is I'd wrap up this stream and then just try to like take a break and eat and get that done. And then if something happens, I could come back on the air. Because I'm going to have to eat either way. What is it? How does that sound? What do you think about this? And right now, right at this second, I mean, there could be Ukraine stuff going on. It's nothing urgent this second. All right, I'm going to do a very quick, yes, there's going to be a quick end to this stream. I'm going to shout out our mods really quick. Yeah, I'm going to do that. One Way Street, Leslie Ladyhawk, Ruth, all of our moderators, awesome, thank you. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X, and Kay Larry Body, Andrea Holder, Paul Anderson on Facebook, and Big Ball of Yarn, LB Prairie Dawn, Idaho Star, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai 3, Sarah, Plux Eternus, and all of our Twitch moderators. Also, thanks to New Yorker 783 on Twitch and Johannes Kreikhammer for your support, and thank you, and Kendra Fox. So why don't I do that? I very well might have to come back on the air in like 15 minutes if something happens. So I'm going to try right now to get off the air and eat. And maybe if stuff's going to happen, it can hold off till that happens. All right. I'm not going to do all the normal good night stuff. So let me just go and do that. So I really appreciate you being here for the stream. And I very well might be back on in a little bit. But I got to eat anyway. So let's do that, wrap up this stream, and we'll see what happens. But again, if something happens in 10 minutes, I'll just come on in 10 minutes. That's what I'm going to do. All right. So for now, who knows? It could be 5 minutes. All right, so for now, I appreciate you watching. We might be back in a little bit with more coverage, depending on what happens tonight. And we'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.